Chapter 47:14. Although neither of them spoke, their hearts grew closer. A moment later, Princess Xixia asked softly, Xiao Lang, since there's no news from the Thunder Temple, why don't we go to the Immortal Palace? Perhaps His Majesty will find something. I don't want to see him. Xiao Hua shook his head. He's too selfish. Even if there's any news, he won't tell me easily. Unless the 9 provinces' grand array failed and the world-destroying Mayfly attacked the Immortal Palace. For the sake of the 3 mainlands' billions of lives, for the sake of the Fortune Gate's disciples, for the sake of the Shao country's citizens. Princess Xixia looked at the man who was already arrogant and proud of the world. She inwardly curled her lips and cautiously persuaded him. Ai. Xiao Hua sighed. He waved his hand and took out the Pegasus flying chariot. He pulled Princess Xixia's hand and said, Let's go with the Pegasus. We'll go wherever it goes. Hee, this concubine will listen to Xiao Lang. Princess Xixia pursed her lips and smiled. She then looked at the vast land and the whistling wind and said, Xiao Lang, I heard that your Kunlun mirror has a lot of spirit fruits and spirit wine. This concubine has never tasted them. Hee, it's not just spirit fruits and spirit wine. Xiao Hua chuckled. With a wave of his hand, several large immortality peaches appeared from the space and handed them over. Ah! Princess Xixia cried out in surprise, You! How did you manage to grow immortality peaches? Hee, what kind of person am I? Xiao Hua proudly said, I, Xiao Hua, am a cultivator who doesn't know how to give birth to a child. Hee, it's fine. Princess Xixia pursed her lips and smiled. This concubine will take care of it. I don't need you. Seeing Princess Xixia blushing like a peach, Xiao Hua smiled and kissed Princess Xixia's forehead. He smiled and said, Then I'll have to trouble your highness in the future. Then it's time to nourish myself. Princess Xixia nodded solemnly. She picked up a peach and took a small bite. Then she exclaimed, Xiao Lang, why is your peach so sweet? Compared to mother's. As she spoke, Princess Xixia seemed to have thought of something. She hastily covered her mouth with her hand, and her large eyes darted around as if she was afraid that the Empress would hear her. Don't be impatient. Xiao Hua seemed to have thought of something. With a wave of his hand, he took out a few jade pots and jade cups and handed them to Princess Xixia. This is spirit wine brewed from immortal peaches. Try it. Wow. Princess Xixia was overjoyed. She cried out, Wine brewed with immortal peaches. Xiao Lang, you're definitely the first one in the 3 continents. As she spoke, Princess Xixia picked up the jade pot and poured out a cup of dark green spiritual wine. Then, she placed it under her nose and lightly sniffed it. After that, she closed her eyes and appeared to be intoxicated. After she carefully finished drinking the fine wine, she clapped her hands and said, This wine should only exist in the heavens. I wonder when it will descend to the mortal world. Ha! Xiao Hua laughed loudly. He seemed to have said this in the meteor belt in the Star Moon Palace. He didn't expect Princess Xixia to be so telepathic with him and actually use it here. Xiao Lang, quickly come and try it. Princess Xixia handed another cup of spirit wine to Xiao Hua as if she was presenting a treasure. This spirit wine is really rare in the world. Xiao Hua was in a difficult position. He looked at the dark green wine and said, I don't really like to drink wine. Humph. Princess Xixia tilted her head and pouted. That was in the past. Now. I like it, so you have to accompany me. Otherwise, I won't be your princess. Okay. Then I'll risk my life to accompany you. Xiao Hua also smiled heroically. He took the jade cup and drank it in one gulp. As the spirit wine entered his mouth, an indescribable fragrance emerged from his mouth and nose. It was like a clear spring that cleansed his body and mind, washing away all inappropriate thoughts. Wonderful. Xiaohua couldn't help but praise. He poured another cup of spirit wine from the jade pot and took a sip. Seeing that Xiaohua was happy, Princess Zixia's heart also relaxed. She handed the peach of immortality to Xiaohua and said, "Xiaolang, you should also try this. In the next few days, there was a sense of harmony." Princess Zixia accompanied Xiaohua and took advantage of the heavenly horse-flying chariot flying across the sky. Princess Zixia would either point out the mountains and rivers, tell Xiaohua about some Buddhist classics, or take out musical instruments to play for Xiaohua. Or she would drink spirit wine with Xiaohua and carefully taste spirit fruits. This allowed Xiaohua's tired heart to slowly recover and also allowed his Dao heart to become more orderly. On this day, the sun rose from the east. The brilliant light rushed from the horizon and sprinkled on Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua slowly stood up from the flying chariot. His eyes were bright and full of expression as he looked at the morning sun. A kind of aura soared straight into the sky. After the earth, fire, wind, and lightning energy rushed out of the big hole, they quickly returned to Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua once again stood upright like a mountain. Princess Zixia had a smile on her face. She knew that the indomitable man she was familiar with had returned. A short rest allowed him to have a stronger ability to shoulder the burden of the 3 continents. Accompanying such a man is the dream of many women. Princess Zixia's eyes were somewhat blurred as she secretly felt happy. "My princess, your highness." Xiaohua suddenly turned his head and whispered, "Where are we going now?" "This concubine will follow Xiaolang." "Xiaolang, please make a decision." Princess Zixia smiled and softly replied. "The Immortal Palace is now preparing to set up the great array of the 9 regions. His Majesty is definitely the most important one. We are not in a hurry to go to the Immortal Palace." Xiaohua already had a plan. He said, "After the great array of the 9 regions is set up, I will go find His Majesty and explain the matter of the immortal formation and the 4 great continents to him." "Good." Princess Zixia still smiled as brightly as the morning flower. "Now, we are rushing to the hidden immortal continent. There is no need to use the Pegasus flying carriage. This flying carriage is too slow." Xiaohua said again, "However, Princess, your highness must point out the direction for me. Otherwise, I will definitely get lost." What a pitiful child. Princess Zixia naturally knows about Xiaohua's problem. However, today, in order to divert Xiaohua's attention, she pursed her lips and said with a smile, "You are already so big yet you still get lost. It seems that other than not being able to give birth, you will also get lost." "Of course, who asked me to be your princess, your highness? I will also take care of this matter." "Great." Xiaohua put away the Pegasus flying carriage with a wave of his hand. He grabbed Princess Zixia's hand and flew towards the South Sea using the lightning escape technique. However, while he was flying, Xiaohua released the Netherworld Origin Force. Xiaohua originally planned to go to the South Sea and use the South Sea Dragon Palace's transmission array to go to the North Sea Dragon Palace or the East Sea Dragon Palace to return to the hidden immortal continent. However, when he arrived at the South Sea, he discovered that he had collected more than 1,000,000 incomplete souls along the way. All of them were killed by the world-exterminating strange insects, the human race, sea tribe, and even the dragon race. Since the prelude to the slaughter had already begun and the Fortune Gate's disciples were busy moving to the West Sea, Xiaohua was not in a hurry to use the Dragon Palace's transmission array. He directly used the lightning escape technique to pass through the South Sea and East Sea and return to the hidden immortal continent. After all, if the incomplete souls stayed in the world for too long, there might be some changes. Xiaohua needed to put them into the inside of the space as soon as possible. Several months later, in the depths of the East Sea, a streak of lightning streaked across the waves like a bolt of lightning. It was none other than Xiaohua, who was enshrouded in lightning, and Princess Zixia, who was wearing a smile on her face. At this time, Xiaohua had already hidden the heaviness in his heart. No one knew that in these several months, Xiaohua had actually collected more than 100 million incomplete souls. Moreover, no one knew better than Xiao Hua that the world-exterminating mayfly had quietly stretched out its ferocious face all over the 3 continents and 4 seas, beginning to reap lives. Xiao Hua flew into the hidden Immortal continent and did not stop for a moment. He directly flew in the direction of Yu province. Darling Xiao. Princess Xia was a little worried. This concubine is tired, can we stop for a few days? Xiao Hua naturally knew that this was Princess Xia's excuse. He thought for a moment and said, let's continue for another half a day. All right, it's a promise. Just half a day, no more than 2 hours. Princess Xia smiled faintly. She reached out and pulled Xiao Hua's earlobe a few times. After flying for another half a day, Xiao Hua's heart slowly relaxed. This was because in this half a day, he had only collected several tens of thousands of human souls, which was much less than before. He already had a plan in his heart. He knew that although the curtains to the end of the world had already been drawn, those world-exterminating mayflies had not formed a trend of crushing everything. The 1,000-meter-long mayflies that Xiao Hua had seen before were still very few. There were not even a few hundred meters or a few thousand meters. Most of the mayflies were only an inch long. Therefore, in the boundless seas of the 4 seas, these world-exterminating mayflies could do whatever they wanted. Of course, while Xiao Hua was relieved, he also raised his vigilance. After all, from what he could see, the mayflies had a certain level of intelligence. Moreover, they might not be inferior to the human race, monster race, or sea race. Xiao Hua told Princess Xia his plan. Princess Xia did not hesitate to suggest, take the initiative to attack. Kill the world-exterminating mayflies before they can sprout. Moreover, the more mayflies we kill now, the less pressure our 3 continents will have in the future. Good. Let's rush to. Xiao Hua nodded in agreement. However, before he could finish speaking, Princess Xia smiled and said, Darling Xiao, you only need to preside over the overall situation. I will take care of the small matters in your place. As she spoke, Princess Xia raised her hand and took out a phoenix hairpin from her head. As she spat out a mouthful of true qi, the phoenix hairpin instantly transformed into a palm-sized flying phoenix. Princess Xia raised her hand and touched the forehead of the flying phoenix. The flying phoenix let out a clear cry and rushed into the sky, disappearing in an instant. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, layers of lightning surged high up in the sky, and a distorted illusory figure of 1,000 feet in size fell down from the sky. When the illusory figure appeared in front of Xiao Hua, thousands of pillars of vast spirit qi crashed down and condensed into a celestial palace inspector dressed in Confucian robes. Chapter 47:15. The inspector stood still with a respectful expression on his face. He carefully handed over the phoenix hairpin in his hand and bowed. Inspector Zhang Hao greets Master Xiao Lei and Princess Xia. Princess Xia received the phoenix hairpin and ordered, the Fortune Gate's first master, Daoist Xiao Hua, has decreed that the world-exterminating mayfly is still in its infancy. If our 3 continents and 4 seas want to win the war, we must first suppress the enemy. I hereby inform the Immortal Palace, Dragon Island, Great Holy Hall, and Thunder Temple that from today onwards, according to the agreement made at the Jade Pool, they will be the first to fight in their respective defensive zones. Yes, this general understands. Zhang Hao dared not delay. His figure flickered as he was about to fly away. Princess Xia added, Daoist Xiao is currently traveling all over the 3 continents to find a way to exterminate the world-exterminating mayfly. He is unable to send a message to the other sex venerables. Your Majesty, please do it on his behalf. This general will definitely report the truth. This general also thanks Daoist Xiao on behalf of the world. Zhang Hao bowed, then turned into a streak of lightning and flew away. Xiao Hua frowned and said, Xian, the Immortal Palace's time is different from the 3 continents. Wouldn't it take a lot of time to send a message back and forth? Rest assured, darling Xiao. Princess Xia pursed her lips and smiled, the speed of sending a message. Depends on the importance of the message, and who is the sender. Darling Zhao's name has shaken the world, and the content of this message is related to the lives of the 3 continents. I can guarantee that this message will be sent to His Majesty's Jade Desk in less than half a day. At the latest, the message will be sent to Dragon Island, Thunder Temple, and Great Holy Hall. The immortal soldiers and generals on the hidden immortal mainland, as well as the 100 schools of philosophers, will also receive the message. This Xiao understands. Xiao Hua smiled and said, it seems that the immortal palace always used time as an excuse to slow down their actions. Were they all excuses? Not necessarily. Princess Xia replied, we should talk about the matter as it is. Speaking of this, Princess Xia asked, Darling Xiao, do you still want to send a message to the Fortune Gate? There's no need for the Fortune Gate. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said, Lu Yi and the others are all young disciples. They are more belligerent. Moreover, Jiang Hong is overseeing the West Sea Dragon Palace. She must have established her prestige first. Who knows, the smoke of war might have already risen in the West Sea. Where should we go now? Gun Prefecture, Shao Country. In the end, Xiao Hua was still worried about the citizens of the Shao Empire. He still wanted to see for himself. Now that the situation was urgent, if possible, he still wanted to bring them into the Xinhua continent. All right. Princess Xia raised her hand and pointed into the distance. She couldn't help but smile as she said, Darling Xiao, let's go there. Princess Xia really loved this adorable Xiao Hua beside her. Through her observations during this period of time, she knew that Xiao Hua, a Taoist Mahayana realm cultivator and a supreme being of the human race, really had a poor sense of direction. He wasn't pretending. The lightning escape, which was known as the fastest in the world, was indeed fast, but the direction was too horrible to look at. However, it was precisely this flaw that made Princess Xia feel that this was the kind of person she should love. He had both advantages and disadvantages. Sometimes, he would even cry in her arms. For a moment, Princess Xia was overflowing with happiness. She really didn't care about the apocalypse in front of her because she had a strong and blind trust in this man. She firmly believed that this man she loved deeply, this man who couldn't give birth and was a grandmaster in everything else, would definitely be able to save the lives of the 3 mainlands from this crisis. Xiao Hua naturally saw the deep love in Princess Xia's eyes. However, he was even more sensitive to the faint smile on Princess Xia's lips. He blushed slightly and said embarrassedly, Oh, I forgot to tell you. Other than giving birth, cough cough, and finding directions, I can't do it. It's okay. Princess Xia smiled sweetly and said, Darling Xiao has no eyes, so I am Darling Zhao's eyes. This Xiao has no legs, so I am Darling Zhao's legs. If Darling Xiao can't find the way home, then I will bring Darling Xiao home. Then I'm relieved. Let's go. Xiao Hua's heart was also filled with sweetness. His previous nervousness slowly disappeared. He pulled Princess Xia's hand and rushed towards Gun Prefecture with lightning around his body. Sure enough, in less than 2 days, while Xiao Hua was flying, he heard the sound of wind and clouds surging in the sky. Streaks of lightning covered the entire sky like a flash flood. Along with the flickering of lightning, a majestic voice that seemed like the will of heaven and earth resounded, by the will of the heavens and the immortal emperor's decree, today, the mayfly extermination will descend upon the world. The decree of the immortal emperor, every word was like a thunderclap. It was extremely frightening. The entire hidden immortal continent seemed to be shrouded by this voice. As long as it was a human or a Confucian cultivator, they could hear it clearly. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the immortal emperor's voice finally stopped. The dark clouds and lightning that filled the sky also gradually dispersed, revealing the clear sky and the blazing sun in the sky. Good. Xiao Hua smiled and said, His Majesty can be considered to be swift and decisive this time. He didn't slack off. Princess Xia hesitated for a moment, then probed, actually, as far as I know, His Majesty can be considered a diligent and good immortal emperor. However, he is too rigid and cares too much about his face in many places. Moreover, in the immortal palace, public and private matters sometimes can't be separated clearly. Xiao Hua knew that Princess Xixia wanted to ease the tension between him and immortal Emperor Gochen. He smiled and tightly grasped Princess Xixia's hand, saying, "Don't worry, my princess. For your sake, I won't make things too difficult for him. Since ancient times, Confucians and Taoists have been at odds. Now, your fortune gate can create a new world. It really isn't easy." Princess Xixia was still somewhat worried, but this is only on the surface. Our Confucian cultivators have been in charge of the hidden immortal continent for who knows how many years. The Confucian cultivators have been in conflict with the Taoist sect since ancient times. It's only because the four great clans are dissatisfied with the military that the Confucian cultivators haven't really made a move against the Taoist sect. This time, regardless of the outcome of the world-exterminating ephemera disaster, your Taoist sect's future is worrying. Xiao Hua nodded, indicating that he understood. The world-exterminating ephemera disaster was unavoidable, so there was no need to mention anything. However, if the world-exterminating ephemera disaster was avoided, whether it was the Confucian cultivators, Buddhist sect, or the demonic beast race, they would definitely be unprecedentedly united. The Fortune Gate's disciples would also suffer heavy losses in the world-exterminating ephemera battle. Under such circumstances, the iron-willed immortal emperor would absolutely not care about what the Fortune Gate had done before. He would definitely unite with the four great clans to raise his butcher's knife against the Fortune Gate. Of course, it couldn't be ruled out that the Fortune Gate could integrate with the Confucian cultivators in the world-exterminating war, forming a noble friendship in war, and laying a solid foundation for future peaceful coexistence. Of course, Xiao Hua understood that Princess Xixia's thoughts were the thoughts of ordinary people. It was the thoughts of all the cultivators of the three continents who didn't know about Xiao Hua's secret. Other than Xiao Hua, who couldn't give birth and couldn't recognize directions, was he an ordinary person? Not to mention how many people would fall in the world-exterminating war, how many souls would be collected by Xiao Hua's space, and how many talented Fortune Gate disciples would be born on the Xinhua continent. However, with the current Fortune Gate disciples on the Xinhua continent, Xiao Hua wouldn't be afraid of the Confucian cultivators and Buddhist sect who had experienced the baptism of war. Not to mention, the demonic beast race's #1 great sage, one of the Buddhist sect's 3 great Buddhist lords, Maitreya Buddha of the world, and the Immortal Palace's Scholar Palace's master of literature, were all Xiao Hua's avatars. Of course, Xiao Hua wouldn't tell Princess Xixia his true thoughts. He wouldn't make things difficult for Princess Xixia, and he wouldn't let Princess Xixia fall into injustice. He nodded and said, "I have considered your thoughts. But don't worry, as long as I'm on the 3 continents, no one can bully my Fortune Gate's disciples. If anyone dares to touch a finger, I will cut off one of their arms." Darling Xiao is so domineering. Princess Xixia gave him a thumbs up and praised. Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry, faint. What kind of domineering is this? His Majesty's command, the whole world prostrates, that's domineering. This concubine likes darling Zhao's domineering attitude. I don't like other people's domineering attitude. Princess Xixia blinked her eyes and replied. Hearing Princess Xixia refer to the immortal emperor as someone else, Xiao Hua's heart warmed, and he felt as if the whole world was covered in a layer of light. However, before he could speak, waves of inexplicable fluctuations surged out from the distant horizon and rushed into the heavens and earth. Although these fluctuations were very faint and strange, they were like sharp swords that pierced through Xiao Hua's heart. These fluctuations were released when the world-exterminating ephemera swarms attacked. Not good. Xiao Hua's expression changed, and he hurriedly released his divine sense. However, when he saw the situation in front of him, a cold sneer appeared on his face. What's wrong? Seeing Xiao Hua's expression change, Princess Xixia also hurriedly released her golden pupils. Unfortunately, the range of her divine sense couldn't compare to Xiao Hua's. Therefore, she withdrew her golden pupils and hurriedly asked Xiao Hua. It was also at this time that Princess Xia saw the cold sneer on Xiao Hua's face. Duanmu family? Princess Xia looked at the ground and immediately came to a realization. She frowned and said, Xiao Hua, is the Duanmu family under attack? That's right. Xiao Hua was still using his divine sense to observe the situation in front of him. He nodded and said, that muscular man with arrogant eyebrows is the Duanmu family's patriarch, Duanmu Tianji, right? Yes. Princess Xia naturally knew about the grudge between Xiao Hua and the Duanmu family. She lightly gritted her teeth and replied, Duanmu Tianji's original name was Duanmu Tianjiao. When he was young, his talent was heavenly and he looked down on everyone. His father had high expectations for him, so he took on the name Tianjiao. When he was 20, Duanmu Tianjiao changed his name to Duanmu Tianji, the same name as the Nangong family's patriarch, Nangong Tianji. Although he boasted that he was a Tianjiao and showed off his abilities too much, everyone knew that Duanmu Tianji was arrogant and wanted to compete with the four great families. Chapter 47:16. No wonder. Xiao Hua said in a low voice, although this guy's Confucian cultivation method can't compare to the orthodox 5 Qis unifications, it can be considered to be a unique way to temper his true Qi to another extreme. He really is a genius. Sigh, even a secondary first-class Confucian family's family head is a literary star. Aren't there too many literary stars in hidden Immortal continent? Princess Xia rolled her eyes at Xiao Hua and explained, our Confucian 100 schools of thought, from a 9th-class family to a 1st-class family, all have countless years of heritage. To become a 3rd-class family, the family head must be a literary star. Even a 9th-grade origin energy literary saint cannot be. Otherwise, it can only be a 3rd-class family. This Duanmu family is a 1st-class family, only below famous families like Confucius and Mencius. Naturally, they also have a lot of heritage. It might take a lot of effort to get a half-saint literary star, but getting a quasi or void saint literary star is not a problem. Xiao Hua was somewhat flabbergasted. He asked curiously, this Xiao has seen a half-saint literary star before. It seems that the patriarchs of the 4 great clans are all half-saint literary stars. But what is this quasi-saint literary star and void saint literary star? The sage pen points to the literary star. Sage is the key. Half-saint is naturally half-saint, but that sage is also a real sage, a sage whose name is engraved on the literary star. Quasi-sage is the Confucian cultivator who is second only to the sage and can only engrave their name on the literary star. They can also point to the literary star, but that literary star is an illusion, different from a real literary star. Illusionary divine is the illusion of a real sage. They can also point to the literary song, but this literary song is half a literary song or an incomplete literary song. I understand now. Xiao Hua smiled. In the future, it is hard to find the art of teaching, so the Confucian 100 schools of thought found another way, using their own method to become a literary star. Damn it, this literary song. Is it a real literary song? Art of teaching? Princess Xia was stunned, somewhat confused. Obviously, she did not know that the art of teaching was needed to become a literary star. I spilled the beans. Xiao Hua suddenly came to a realization and smiled, let's not talk about this anymore. I keep feeling that doing this is somewhat opportunistic. Sigh, the human race. Princess Xia sighed. They just like to take advantage of opportunities and cultivate properly. If they can become a literary star, then they'll be a literary star. If they can't, then they'll just become a literary saint with a 9th-grade origin power. Everyone wants to fight for the title of a literary star and leave their names in history. However, these void saint literary stars and quasi-saint literary stars are recognized by the heavenly court. Oh no. Xiao Hua was originally about to mock the heavenly court, but suddenly, his expression changed drastically as he exclaimed, Duanmu Tian is in danger. As he spoke, he took out the Kunlun mirror without hesitation. With a shake of his hand, he sent Princess Zixia into the Shenhua continent. He even called out, "Xian Xian, hide first." Princess Zixia didn't even have time to reply before she was taken away by Xiaohua. Xiaohua's figure flickered as he teleported into the distance. Thousands of miles away from Xiaohua and Princess Zixia, there was a continuous valley. The valley's scenery was beautiful, and hundreds of flowers were blooming. Layers of beautiful flowers covered the ground like heavenly weaves. It was truly a paradise on earth. However, at this moment, this beautiful field was completely surrounded by tens of millions of world-exterminating mayflies. These mayflies were densely packed, and the small ones were several inches long while the large ones were thousands of feet long. They were crazily devouring the ground and attacking groups of cultivators. On the ground, more than half of the beautiful scenery had already been devoured. In the sky, millions of cultivators were also in imminent danger. Every moment, there would be miserable screams, and cultivators' corpses would fall with the wind. At this moment, the sun was really scorching hot, like a fireball hanging directly above the valley. However, this bright sunlight couldn't block the dazzling brilliance of the imperial equipment amidst the mayfly swarm. Rumble. From one of the mountain peaks, a massive pillar of boundless energy shot out. Popping sounds could be heard as numerous mayflies, some dozens of meters tall, began to grow larger. However, they couldn't devour the boundless energy, and instead exploded into dust. Woo! After the vast chi pillar, a strange thing that was thousands of feet long flew out from a gap between the strange insects. This thing had a human face and a snake's body. Its entire body was crimson red, and there seemed to be the sun and moon revolving between its slightly closed eyes. Wasn't this the torch dragon god demon puppet that the Duanmu family had obtained from the god-fiend blood pool? As soon as this torch dragon god demon puppet appeared, it immediately had a kind of power that was like a stormy sea, and it rushed out in all directions. However, this power didn't rush out for more than a few miles. Wang wang. The whole sky rumbled again, and tens of thousands of mayflies tore through the void and surrounded this power. They even began to devour this seemingly invisible power. GG. From the place where the torch dragon god demon puppet had rushed out, a sharp screeching sound rang out. A huge black shadow followed it like a shadow, chasing after it. A tail that was even more vigorous than a python's pierced into the void, and the hind legs that swept up the shadow ignored the distance between them. With a schwa sound, it had already caught up to the back of the torch dragon god demon puppet. Roar. The torch dragon god demon puppet seemed to have come to life, and it roared furiously. Its huge snake tail stirred up the air in midair, and it smashed towards the black hind legs of the mayfly. Boom. A huge sound rang out, and light splashed in all directions. Not only did the torch dragon god demon puppet break the hind legs of the mayfly, it also punched the mayfly's eyes, and that huge body also rolled in midair. However, it was also at this time that the tip of the tail that had stabbed into the void appeared out of thin air, and it pierced towards the neck of the torch dragon god demon puppet. The tip of the tail was extremely strange. When the torch dragon god demon puppet discovered it, it was already less than 100 feet away. The tip of the tail was so sharp that it had already pierced the surface of the god demon puppet, and layers of wrinkles appeared. Needless to say, if the torch dragon god demon puppet was stabbed, it would definitely suffer a great loss. At this critical moment, the torch dragon god demon puppet's slightly closed eyes opened in the soil. The left eye was a sun, and the right eye was a moon, and at the same time, they emitted a bright light. A golden pillar of light and a silver pillar of light covered the space where the tail was at the same time. Schwa. At the place where the light intersected, the entire space suddenly became strangely still, and that tail actually stopped moving. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the torch dragon god demon puppet's entire body fell from the sky, and smashed into the root of the tail. Boom. The god-demon puppet was so hard that even the shell of the mayfly couldn't bear it, and that tail was instantly shattered. It was also at this time that the two pillars of light that had just enveloped the space turned into fireflies, and fell down one after another. GG. That 1,000 feet large mayfly hissed, and its body emitted a dark green and gray mist, and it began to gradually hide in the air. Where do you think you're going? Suddenly, a distorted silhouette of light that was like a piece of paper squeezed out from the encirclement of the strange insects. A furious roar came from the silhouette of light, and then the 10 fingers of 2 giant hands transformed into pillars of light that caught the tumbling 1,000 feet long strange insect. Boom boom boom. The silhouette of light seemed to fill up like a bubble as Duanmu Tianji's child body materialized. The countless pillars of light crashed into his child body, and at the same time, a rosy halo of light passed through his arms and into Fu Yu's body. Weng weng. The strange insect's body suddenly swelled, but in a moment, that mist shrouded it again, and the mayfly's body slowly shrank. Damn it! Duanmu Tianji roared, and a multicolored light appeared on his sub-body. This multicolored light was like clouds, and also like waves. If one looked carefully, it also looked like a jade lotus. The vast chi in the air was like a heavenly river, and almost endless. It fell into his sub-body. Naturally, the multicolored light on the sub-body's arm rushed into the mayfly's body like a torrential river. In half a cup of tea's time, the 1,000 feet large mayfly's body shrank and expanded several times, and finally, with a boom, it exploded and turned into ashes. Phew. Duanmu Tianji breathed a sigh of relief, and with a flick of his sleeve, he killed hundreds of small mayflies that pounced at him. Looking at the torch dragon god-demon puppet in the distance, he shouted, "Jianqi, the god-demon puppet you refined is indeed not bad. It can actually defeat a 9th grade essence energy strange insect." Reporting to family head. Duanmu Jianqi's voice came from the god-demon puppet, and that voice was very arrogant. With this disciple's cultivation, I'm far from being able to unleash the power of this god-demon puppet. If you refine it, it can definitely surpass the 9th grade essence energy. I don't care about external things. Duanmu Tianji waved his hand and laughed. Moreover, you're too naive. If it can surpass the 9th grade essence energy, the Immortal Emperor would have already found trouble with my Duanmu family. Hee hee. Duanmu Jianqi laughed mischievously. Even if it can't surpass the 9th grade essence energy, I'm afraid it won't be a problem to conquer the entire hidden immortal continent. Of course, this is also because the strange insect is powerful, otherwise, there would be no need to. Before Duanmu Jianqi could finish speaking, Duanmu Tianji's expression changed, and he hurriedly raised his hand and pointed. Quick, Jianqi, there are several 1,000 feet large mayflies coming out from the void. Duanmu Tianji hadn't even finished speaking. His figure shook, and he transformed into a ray of light that charged towards the swarm of mayflies. However, he hadn't even flown 300 m away when a black shadow that was a few tens of thousands of meters in size suddenly appeared high up in the sky. The black shadow had appeared so suddenly that it seemed as if it had been there since the ancient times. Not good. Seeing that this mayfly was several times larger than the one he just defeated, Duanmu Jianqi knew that things were not good. Without waiting for the mayfly to make any moves, a 5-colored light shadow immediately appeared around his body, and the torch dragon god-demon puppet once again used its strongest technique. 2 light pillars intersected and enveloped the mayfly. However, the torch dragon god-demon puppet's technique already contained a trace of the law of time, so how could an ordinary human cultivator calmly use it? Not only did the 2 light pillars become much dimmer, but the area they covered also shrunk a lot. However, even so, it seemed that the several 1,000 feet large mayfly was still stiff in the sky. Roar. The torch dragon god-demon puppet roared and opened its mouth, and a huge amount of noble chi immediately crashed into the mayfly's body. At the same time, the puppet's huge snake tail also fiercely smashed toward one of the mayfly's eyes. The torch dragon god-demon puppet's move immediately attracted Duanmu Tianji's attention. Seeing such a powerful aura pressing down like a mountain, Duanmu Tianji was greatly shocked. He couldn't care about the several thousand feet large mayflies under him, and his body suddenly expanded, and his hands reached out to stab into the body of the several thousand feet large mayfly. However, Duanmu Tianji only reached out 1,000 feet, and he hesitated again. After all, it was already difficult for him to kill the several thousand feet large mayfly just now, and he was confident that the true qi in his body wasn't enough to make this several thousand feet large mayfly explode. In a moment, Duanmu Tianji made a decision. He waved his hands, and a dark golden thread of light flew out from his body. It streaked across the sky, and directly landed on the mayfly's neck. Seeing the dark golden thread of light wrapped around the mayfly's neck, Duanmu Tianji's heart, which had been hanging in the air, finally calmed down. Because he clearly knew the power of this dark golden thread of light, he could guarantee that even if Nangang Tianji was entangled by this thread of light, on this hidden immortal continent, there would only be one patriarch called Tianji left. Unfortunately, Duanmu Tianji still thought too much. The several thousand feet large mayfly that even Xiaohua, the North Star, and the other supremes couldn't deal with, was actually killed by the golden thread of light? When the thread of light flickered, the mayfly's neck was immediately flattened, and not incomparably hard. Duanmu Tianji had a bad feeling, because the mayflies he encountered before all had hard shells. How could they be so soft? Not good. Duanmu Tianji's heart was somewhat flustered, and he hurriedly wanted to use other divine abilities, but at this moment, swoosh. A layer of obscure ripples appeared on the surface of the several thousand feet large mayfly's body. This ripple landed in the air, pa pa pa. The light pillars in the air were immediately shattered, and at the same time, those light pillars connected to the torch dragon god demon puppet immediately rolled back, and rushed towards Duanmu Jiji. Roar. The torch dragon god demon puppet's body radiated brilliance in all directions, and it raised its head to howl. Swoosh. Like a light smoke, a black shadow swept out from the void, and swept across the neck of the torch dragon god demon puppet. Clang. An obscure sound suddenly appeared, and several sparks flew out from the surface of the torch dragon god demon puppet's body. Although cracks appeared on the surface of the torch dragon god demon puppet's body, the legs of the mayfly, which surpassed the 10th level of elemental energy, actually didn't shatter the torch dragon god demon puppet. Puff. It was also at this moment that Duanmu Jiji, who was inside the torch dragon god demon puppet, had already made his move, and a blood-colored pillar of elemental energy rushed out, and attacked the mayfly. Unfortunately, just as the pillar of elemental energy was shot out, the hind leg that was originally blocked by the torch dragon god demon puppet suddenly trembled, and a shadow appeared from the sharp hind leg, and directly entered the body of the torch dragon god demon puppet. That hard body actually didn't have any resistance at all. Ah! With a miserable cry, Duanmu Jiji's several hundred feet large subbody was hacked out of the torch dragon god demon puppet by the shadow of the torch dragon god demon puppet's hind leg. Moreover, just as Duanmu Jiji's subbody appeared, it was immediately split in half, and flesh and blood splattered everywhere, and the flesh that fused with the subbody turned into fragments. Facing the torch dragon god demon puppet, Duanmu Jiji, who had lost the protection of the torch dragon god demon puppet, was simply no match for the torch dragon god demon puppet. Not to mention Duanmu Jiji, at the same time, just as Duanmu Tianji was about to backhand his subbody to activate another divine ability, the tip of the torch dragon god demon puppet's tail silently poked out from the void inside his subbody, and instantly destroyed Duanmu Tianji's subbody. Seeing the subbody collapse with a loud bang, and the colorful pillar of light scattered in all directions, Duanmu Tianji resolutely abandoned his subbody and flesh, and wanted to escape from his mutated primordial spirit. Swoosh. The other hind leg, which was previously hidden in an unknown place in the void, suddenly crossed the horizon. As a faint shadow swept past, all of the 5 colors were split in half. How? How can it be so powerful? Duanmu Tianji was incomparably shocked, and after an extremely unwilling voice rang out in the 5 colors, it abruptly stopped. Then, the several thousand feet large torch dragon god demon puppet opened its mouth greedily, and in an instant, it covered the space near the 5 colors, and even the void was being devoured by it. As it devoured, the body of the torch dragon god demon puppet swelled up again. Damn it. While the torch dragon god demon puppet was leisurely enjoying itself, Xiaohua's figure had just appeared in the distant sky. While he was cursing inwardly, he saw that under the body of the several thousand feet large torch dragon god demon puppet, in the valley that was surrounded by millions of torch dragons, the several thousand feet large torch dragon god demon puppet was almost invincible. Every time it flew, dozens of Duanmu family disciples would be killed. After these disciples were killed, another 1,000 feet large torch dragon god demon puppet came over to devour them, and waves of energy waves that soared to the sky wreaked havoc in the valley. The smell of blood rushed to the 9 heavens. Swoosh. Just as Xiaohua approached, the originally calm sky suddenly split open, and a stinger fell from the sky. It was actually another several thousand feet large torch dragon god demon puppet that had been hiding in the void. Humph. Xiaohua's figure flickered, barely dodging the sneak attack. He immediately took out the Kunlun mirror, and a light pillar rumbled as the lightning Reverend and Venerable Yun flew out. Xiaohua threw a medicinal pill to each of them, and without stopping, his figure blurred as he charged towards the swarm of torch dragons above the valley. Boom, boom, boom. In just a short while, several explosions sounded from the swarm of torch dragons. The several thousand feet large torch dragon god demon puppet was killed by Xiaohua. Then, Xiaohua charged out again, shaking the Kunlun mirror once more. Groups of Fortune Gate disciples flew out to meet the swarm of torch dragons. Looking at the lightning Reverend, he had already turned into lightning and disappeared into the void, barely dodging the torch dragon god demon puppet stinger attack. Boom. As expected, the several thousand feet large torch dragon god demon puppet was unable to withstand the heterogeneous true energy contained in the medicinal pill, and exploded in an instant. The thunderbolt Immortal didn't stop for even a moment. He raised his hand and took out the sword gourd that he had refined again. As the thunderbolt Immortal raised his hand and pointed at it, shwa. Dozens of green and red spirit exterminating origin light soared into the sky and landed on the strange bugs that were hundreds of feet long. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A series of light sounds rang out, and as expected by Xiaohua, the spirit execution vital light, which had been refined with the essence of the torch dragon god demon puppet's hind legs and stinger, easily killed these several thousand feet large torch dragons. Good. The lightning Reverend laughed, and was about to clap his hands, but the corpses of the several thousand feet large torch dragons that had been killed had only fallen 1,000 feet, and mist gushed out from their bodies. The torch dragon god demon puppet's body shrunk rapidly, and when it had shrunk to several hundred feet, a fresh skull was born again. Chapter 47:17. Fuck. The lightning Reverend was dumbfounded. This. How can we live like this? Why can't we kill these strange insects? Kill. The lightning Reverend was enraged. He sent out the soul-punishing light to kill the mayflies again. Fortunately, the lightning Reverend was patient. He killed the mayflies several times before they were reduced to the size of black dots. Even so, the mayflies were still alive. Looks like I can only use my true energy to make them explode. Only then did the lightning Reverend, who had lost his head from anger, wave his hand again. Several lightning bolts fell, and the true energy contained in the lightning bolts exploded the mayflies. At this time, Reverend Yun, who had killed another mayfly, flew over and mocked, "Fellow Taoist Shao has already tried, but you don't believe me. What's wrong?" "I don't believe it." Seeing that Reverend Yun had unleashed a vast dragon energy that caused one after another mayflies to explode, Lightning Reverend straightened his neck and retorted. Reverend Yun didn't want to argue with this idiot. He smiled and said, "If you don't believe me, then go tell the mayflies." "I don't care." Then, Reverend Yun swung his dragon tail and attacked another mayfly. After Xiaohua, the Lightning Reverend, and Reverend Yun killed the mayflies, they stopped and stood in midair. The three of them looked like they were watching the battle, but in fact, Xiaohua had already released his netherworld origin force to collect the souls of the Duanmu family's disciples. Something's not right. Xiaohua, who was collecting the souls, suddenly trembled. He exclaimed, "Why aren't there any mayflies' souls? I clearly saw more than a dozen mayflies being killed, but where the netherworld origin force swept over, there was nothing? Could it be that the mayflies don't have souls? Impossible, right? Every living being has a soul." Reverend Yun was also stunned. Perhaps, these mayflies are from the upper realm, and fellow Taoist can't collect them? Impossible. The lightning reverend immediately retorted, "When we were in the ruins and on the desolate continent, we also collected souls from the upper realm. Currently, on the Xinhua continent, many of our Fortune Gate's outstanding disciples are probably reincarnated from the souls we collected back then." Perhaps. Xiaohua pondered and said, "It's because the mayflies don't have souls, all the living beings they devoured and killed can't enter reincarnation? Ask fellow Taoist Wu to come out and see." The lightning reverend laughed. "True." Xiaohua nodded. "Taoist Wu, ever since he come out, he has been in seclusion. It's time for him to come out." Unfortunately, when Xiaohua's mind entered the space, the witch priest's figure turned into a dark green bone flower. Waves of obscure and strange green seal script appeared around him like flowers blooming and withering. It was obvious that he had reached the key point of cultivation. Taoist to come out. The moment Xiaohua came out, the lightning reverend and Reverend Yun understood. Reverend Yun looked around and said, "Fellow Taoist, if there's nothing else, I will also go cultivate." "I will go too." The lightning reverend was unwilling to be left behind. "If I don't cultivate, I'll be overtaken by that strange thing." The lightning reverend threw the sword gourd to Xiaohua and followed Reverend Yun back to the Xinhua continent. The number of mayflies besieging the Duanmu family was much more than the number of mayflies besieging the high cloud side hall. This time, the battle had gone on for more than 10 days before it came to an end. At this time, the valley was no longer able to take its original shape. The small red mayflies had swallowed a layer of the ground, and the newly exposed land was dyed a reddish brown by the blood of the Duanmu family's disciples. In less than 10 days, half of the Duanmu family's disciples had fallen. Even among the Fortune Gate's disciples, although Xiaohua had sent out disciples with a cultivation of grade 4 and above, 20% of them had fallen in this great battle. If it weren't for the fact that Xiaohua could store their souls into his space, he would be heartbroken. As dusk fell, the land was dyed red with blood. Although there were still some mayflies that escaped aimlessly into the void, the Duanmu family and Fortune Gate's disciples were too tired to chase after them, thus they let them escape into the void. Sigh. Xiaohua's heart ached. He raised his hand, and a giant lightning hand several hundred li wide appeared. Rumbling noises resounded as the giant lightning hand fell into the void. Puff, 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 puff. Sounds like firecrackers during the New Year echoed in the void. Junior Duanmu Qingyu greets Master Xiao Lei. After Xiaohua retrieved the giant lightning hand, an old man with white hair and beard flew out from the valley. He landed in front of Xiaohua and bowed respectfully. Xiaohua's divine sense swept over him, and he immediately knew that this blood-stained Duanmu Qingyu was a literary saint with a cultivation of 9th grade essence force. "You're welcome." Xiaohua helped Duanmu Qingyu up and said in a low voice, "I'm late." "Sigh, there's nothing to be late about." Duanmu Qingyu sighed, "If it weren't for Master Xiao Lei's arrival, if it weren't for the Fortune Gate's disciples' help, my Duanmu family would have been annihilated. My Duanmu family will never forget the Fortune Gate's grace to my Duanmu family." Shame appeared on Duanmu Qingyu's face as he continued, "To think that my Duanmu family and Master Xiao Lei. It's all in the past, there's no need to mention it." Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand, stopping Duanmu Qingyu's confession. "Now, the 3 mainland survival is at stake, our grudges should be put aside. Senior." Even as he spoke, another cultivator flew out from the group of disciples in the valley. As soon as he landed in front of Xiaohua, he dropped to his knees and kowtowed. Junior was wrong just now. Senior, please forgive me. Wasn't this the Duanmu Yangsheng who had chased after Xiaohua in Sang Lungzi's cultivation dwelling? However, the current Duanmu Yangsheng was no longer as carefree and elegant as before. Not only was his scholarly robe in tatters, even his left arm was missing. Clearly, it was chopped off by Fu Yu's hind leg. Xiaohua hurriedly helped Duanmu Yangsheng up, smiling as he said, "You were merely following the sect's orders, you can't be blamed for this matter." Senior. Tears flowed down from the corners of Duanmu Yangsheng's eyes. Perhaps it was because of the sect's changes, or perhaps it was because of his injuries, but he said in a melancholic tone, "Junior has never seen a cultivator as magnanimous as Senior, repaying evil with good. Master Xiao Lei is the Buddhist sect's Namo merciful great Guanyin Bodhisattva." Duanmu Qingyu hurriedly added, "If Senior isn't merciful, how could there be a merciful person in the three mainlands?" Yes, that is indeed the case. Duanmu Yangsheng hurriedly said with a smile. Master Xiao Lei. Duanmu Qingyu continued, "You've given my Duanmu family a new lease on life. Now that my Duanmu family's patriarch has just fallen, why don't Master Xiao Lei take over my Duanmu family?" Hearing Duanmu Qingyu's words, Xiaohua immediately waved his hand and said, "This is your Duanmu family's matter, this Xiao will not interfere. Moreover, my Fortune Gate's disciples are tired, this Xiaohua still has to bring them back to the West Sea." "Oh, right." Xiaohua reached out and picked up the torch dragon god puppet that had fallen into the valley. He asked, "This Xiaohua is very interested in this thing, I wonder if your Duanmu family is willing to part with it?" "Of course." Duanmu Qingyu didn't even think before saying, "My Duanmu family was saved by Master Xiao Lei. Not to mention a god-demon puppet, even if Master Xiao wants anything from my Duanmu family will give it to him." "Hee, many thanks." Xiaohua put away the torch dragon god puppet and nodded at Duanmu Qingyu and Duanmu Yangsheng. "Farewell, Master Xiao Lei." Duanmu Qingyu and Duanmu Yangsheng hurriedly bowed to send Xiaohua off. The group of Duanmu family's disciples also bowed gratefully and shouted in unison, "Farewell, Master Xiao Lei." Although the setting sun dyed the land red with blood, their grateful voices and thoughts penetrated through the blood-red sky and reached Xiaohua's ears. Seeing that Xiaohua had left, the Fortune Gate's disciples who were already in formation immediately flew off after him. In less than a cup of tea's time, only the Duanmu family's disciples were left on the valley. AI. Duanmu Qingyu looked at Xiaohua and the Fortune Gate's experts' backs for a long time and sighed. If there were no mayflies, the hidden Immortal mainland situation would be clear. Now that the mayflies have appeared, who will rule the world in the future? Duanmu Qingyu's last sentence was actually the last sentence in the Four Great Families' demand for Gao Chen's return. Duanmu Yangsheng's body trembled slightly when he heard it. He understood that the Duanmu family was one of the people who had agreed to surround Immortal Emperor Gao Chen at the Longevity Town. However, his gaze swept over the Duanmu family's disciples, and he understood even more clearly that the past was also the past, it was all gone. After flying for half a day, Xiaohua stopped. The Fortune Gate's disciples behind him also hurriedly lined up and waited. Xiaohua's expression was complicated as he looked at these Fortune Gate's disciples. An indescribable feeling of regret rose in his heart. He understood in his heart. These Fortune Gate's disciples belonged to the Shenhua continent, and had nothing to do with the three mainlands. What world-extinguishing mayflies, what Taoist and Confucian wars, to them? They were nothing. However, because of themselves, because of the kindness in their hearts that others could not understand, they were forced to get involved. The soaring Dragon Mountain range was like this, Chaomu Cliff was like this, and today's Duanmu family battle was also like this. Although these Fortune Gate's disciples lived on the Shenhua continent, Xiaohua felt that they had the right to know and the right to choose. After all, this was not a simple battle, but a life and death battle. Those who came out from the Shenhua continent did not have the chance to return alive. In the past 10 days of fierce battle, nearly 20% of the Fortune Gate's disciples were killed by the mayflies. This was something Xiaohua had never encountered before. Thus, Xiaohua's gaze swept over the injured Fortune Gate's disciples, and he said, "Disciples, you have worked hard, this old man has something to say." Then, Xiaohua explained the current situation on the hidden Immortal mainland, the Fortune Gate situation, and the world-extinguishing mayfly's power in full detail. In the end, he said, "This old man is indeed a little selfish. After all, the 3 mainlands and 4 seas have billions of lives. This old man cannot bear to see them go extinct. Therefore, this old man wants to save the world with my own strength." Unfortunately, the 3 mainlands cannot be compared to the previous. That mainland, this old man's strength was too weak. This old man had no choice but to borrow the strength of my Fortune Gate's disciples to bring all of you out from the Kunlun Immortal domain. Sect Master. Before Xiaohua could finish, the several hundred disciples in front of him had already shouted, "We were Fortune Gate's disciples in life, and Fortune Gate's ghosts in death. Everything we have is given to us by Sect Master. We are willing to follow Sect Master to exterminate the mayflies. We can die without regrets." Xiaohua's eyes were brimming with tears as he looked at these adorable disciples and smiled faintly. In the past, when this old man was alone, it was extremely easy for this old man to say such bold words, but now, this old man has the Fortune Gate, and the people I love, so there are many more concerns. Judging others by my own standards, this old man also knows your situation. Today, this old man has made things clear so that you can make a choice. You have your own lives in the Kunlun Immortal domain on the Xinhua continent, and you also have your own loves and pursuits. This is your own right. This old man will not force you to sacrifice your lives for this old man's interests. Therefore, when you return to the Xinhua continent, convey this old man's words to the Fortune Gate's disciples, so that they can understand and make a choice. If you are willing to follow this old man and fight for the unrelated human race, dragon race, and demonic beast race, then be prepared. The next time there is a bloody battle, this old man will invite you out of the Xinhua continent to fight. If you are unwilling, then you can do whatever you like. This old man will not force you. Sect Master. The group of disciples still wanted to speak, but Xiaohua smiled faintly. He took out the Kunlun mirror and sent all of them into his space. Life and death matters were easy to talk about, but extremely difficult to do. Moreover, Xiaohua knew that these eager disciples were sincere in their thoughts, but if they returned to the Xinhua continent and thought about it again, and then discussed with their relatives and friends, there might be a different outcome. After accepting these disciples, Xiaohua pondered for a moment, then invited Princess Xixia out. Princess Xixia looked around and hurriedly asked, "Xiaohua, what's the situation?" "The Duanmu family should be crippled." Xiaohua's expression was cautious as he explained the situation. Hearing that Duanmu Tianji had also died, Princess Xixia frowned slightly. She thought for a moment and said, "Xiaohua, Duanmu Qingyu is right, you should go down. The 100 Confucian family's foundation is far from what you can imagine. What you saw was only the Duanmu family's superficial casualties, but what about the Duanmu family's private forces? They might not have suffered any losses. Of course, Duanmu Tianji's death really surprised me. Perhaps he was too careless. However, for any Confucian family, the patriarch is a representative, a leader, but the family's strict ancestral laws are enough to ensure the family's normal existence. Xiaohua should go and help Duanmu Qingyu one more time, in the future. It will also be beneficial to the Fortune Gate. Princess Xixia didn't blame Xiaohua. Instead, she spoke tirelessly and gently reminded him. Xiaohua smiled and said, "It's not that I don't want to go to the Duanmu clan. It's just that the hidden Immortal continent is filled with danger. A mere Duanmu clan is nothing in my eyes. Of course, I also admit that I don't know Confucian families as well as you, and I didn't expect that the Duanmu family, which lost so many disciples, might not be damaged. A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows, and the Duanmu family might have other foundations. However, the crisis is beyond my expectations. I am too lazy to think too much about these trivial matters. A monster bug king surpassing the 9th grade of essence force? Princess Xia keenly sensed Xiao Hua's misgivings, and asked considerately. That's right. Xiao Hua nodded solemnly. Previously, I and the other exalts felt that since it surpassed the 9th grade of essence force, it had already surpassed the laws of heaven and earth of the 3 continents, and it must be a monster bug king. Even if this monster bug king exists, it is extremely rare. In fact, this rare is also our pessimistic thinking. In my opinion, maybe 1 or 2 would be enough. However, from the situation of the Duanmu family's attack today, this monster bug king might be an ordinary monster bug. In the future, it will be normal to see a monster bug king in a swarm of bugs. According to Xiao Hua, a monster bug king seems like even His Majesty, the golden-winged great rock, and the Dipankara archaic Buddha are unable to kill it. Princess Xia's expression changed, and she said in shock, Then wouldn't the 3 continents really have no way to survive? That's right. Xiao Hua nodded. As of now, this monster bug king can only be exterminated by this Xiao's pills. This Xiao naturally wouldn't be stingy with these pills, but what if I run out of pills? Then it will only be a hopeless situation. There is no way out to other worlds, and there are no flaws in the immortal formation. The monster bug king. Even the exalts of the various sects are no match for it. Princess Xia's face turned pale, and she groaned, Our 3 continents have really fallen into a hopeless situation. The hopeless situation is already in front of us, but we haven't fallen into it yet. Xiao Hua bit his lips lightly, and said, We still have time to think of a solution. From the current situation, for some unknown reason, these mayfly monster bugs haven't attacked us en masse, and instead, they are attacking some blessed lands. His Majesty the Immortal Emperor has already issued an edict, and our human race and monster race have already started to take the initiative to attack. Perhaps we can seize the initiative. What makes this Xiao the happiest is that the mayflies don't seem to be particularly interested in ordinary humans. Unless there are special circumstances, they won't attack ordinary people. Bugs are bugs. Princess Xia nodded, and said, They only choose to devour true qi that they are interested in. However, it is precisely because of this blindness that ordinary people are also likely to be accidentally injured. Hearing this, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat, because when he was in the immortal town, the apocalyptic warning had swept across the sky, and the hidden immortal continent, the Western Paradise, the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm, and the 4 seas had first received news about the world-destroying mayflies, and many of those news were about ordinary people. However, judging from the recent situation, the number of casualties among ordinary people had decreased again. However, after thinking for a moment, Xiao Hua understood that it wasn't that the monster bugs didn't kill ordinary people, but that ordinary people didn't have any means to resist. When the world-destroying mayflies attacked, other than being silently killed, there was no other outcome. It was far less vigorous than when the cultivators resisted the mayflies. Perhaps because of this, Xiao Hua and the other cultivators didn't notice? Chapter 47:18. The weak are always at a disadvantage. There's nothing we can do about it. Xiao Hua forced a smile. However, he suddenly thought of something and asked, Right, you said that the Duanmu family has 3 boroughs, and this place is only the foundation of their sect. What about the 4 great families? How's the foundation of the 4 great families? How's the foundation of the 4 great families? Princess Xia smiled bitterly and shook her head. You can only ask Dongfang Qianghao, Shimen Jianzhong, Nangang Tian, and Baiming Chui Qing. Moreover, even Dongfang Qianghao doesn't know about the Shimen family's foundation. As for their sect, the hidden immortal continent naturally has one. My immortal palace also knows about it. However, both His Majesty and the Empress know that it's only a bluff. Their true foundation is definitely not there. Otherwise, In the longevity town, His Majesty was surrounded, the golden-winged great rock was surrounded, and the Dipankara archaic Buddha was surrounded. Why didn't they do anything? On one hand, it was Xiao Hua's deterrence. On the other hand, it was the threat of Fuyu. More importantly, no one knows where the foundation of the four great families is. Although the military school occupied the Immortal Palace and became righteous, all the forces are on the surface, hanging high above the 100 schools of Confucianism. Although the 100 schools of Confucian cultivators and the four great clans are the subjects of the Qing clan, they are also in the dark. The forces of Confucian cultivators are really tangled and complicated. Xiao Hua couldn't help but sigh. Fighting with the heavens is endless fun. Fighting with the earth is endless fun. Fighting with humans is even more so. Princess Xia said uninterestedly, the human race sometimes prefers to fight with humans. I don't care about Confucianism anymore. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, I'm more concerned about how to save the common people. My sect master, cultivators are also humans. Princess Xia said with Xiao Hua's tone, if you don't save these cultivators, after the cultivators are exterminated, will it be the common people's turn? As long as the cultivators don't die, the common people can be saved. That's true. My princess is still the best. Xiao Hua nodded. Anyone who has the mind of a leader would know. Only you. Princess Xia rolled her eyes at Xiao Hua and curled her lips. In your heart, you only care about the ordinary people who are looked down upon by others, who are like ants. And to be honest, most of them don't even know who you are. You might be a Mahayana cultivator of the Taoist League and a paragon of the human race, but you're only famous among cultivators. Of the billions of ordinary humans on the hidden immortal continent and the Western Paradise, less than 20% have heard of your name. When I was young, my family lived in a small village called Lu Town. That village wasn't big and there weren't many people in the village. I lived with my grandmother, father, mother, and 2 older brothers. At that time, my greatest wish was to eat a meal of red braised meat. As far as I knew, the furthest place was Lu Town. Not to mention who was the supreme master of the human race, I didn't even know who was the county magistrate of Lu Town. However, this didn't affect my happy life. Therefore, I don't ask the ordinary people of the 3 continents to know who I am. I also don't need them to worship me like the people of Shao Empire. They have their own lives. As long as they are happy, I am happy. I don't need them to know my name. I hope that I am the sun, I am the air, and let them live without worries. Xiao Hua. Princess Xia was deeply moved. Only now did she truly understand the man she loved deeply. Only now did she truly understand her own shallowness. Only now did she truly understand the shallowness of the teachings she received in the Immortal Palace. She also truly understood why Xiao Hua could become the Namo Great Compassionate Great Guanyin Bodhisattva, and not someone else. Xiao Hua shrugged his shoulders confidently and said with a smile, my princess, you don't need to be moved by me. I am just a child of a farmer's family. I only have these superficial pursuits. Princess Xia happily hugged Xiao Hua's arm and said with a smile, the great Tao is simple. Your superficial pursuit is also the most mysterious happiness in the world. No way, I was just casually talking. Xiao Hua said proudly, I can't have such a high level of thinking, right? Of course. How can there not be? Princess Xia said with a smile, you are the supreme expert of the human race. Your words. 1,000 people will have 1,000 different interpretations. They will pick out the most noble interpretation to interpret it. Perhaps what you are thinking is just the most ordinary interpretation. Then it seems that I will have to speak less in the future. Xiao Hua replied. You can in the future, but not now. Princess Xia said with a smile, you have to tell me about your childhood. But Xiao Hua said with a bitter smile, my memories are already fragmented and incomplete. Why is that? Princess Xiao's expression changed greatly. She was very puzzled. Xiao Hua said with a smile, I still don't know what exactly happened. It seems like my soul was searched by someone. Who is so daring? Princess Xiao's face turned cold. How can such a great taboo be casually used? Even if Xiao Hua is magnanimous and doesn't care about it, I won't let him off. This is Xiaoyu continent's matter. I'm afraid I won't have the chance to take revenge. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, let's talk about this later. Only Xiao Hua is kind-hearted. If it was me, I would definitely tear him into pieces. Princess Xia also knew that this matter couldn't be done, so she said fiercely. However, a moment later, Princess Xia squeezed Xiao Hua's hand and said, Xiao Hua, tell me. It'll help you recover your memories. Okay. Xiao Hua took out the Kunlun mirror and released the Pegasus flying carriage. He said with a smile, let's talk as we go. My Xiao Hua is the best. Princess Xia lightly kissed Xiao Hua's cheek and happily jumped onto the flying carriage. Don't be impatient, don't be impatient. Xiao Hua hurriedly said, my princess, there is still one more thing. What is it? Princess Xia asked, puzzled. I want to see what kind of strength the innate 5-element flags can deal with. Xiao Hua explained, that day at the Jade Pool, Dongfang Qionghao's 5-element flags couldn't deal with a mayfly that surpassed the 9th level of origin energy. But what if it can deal with a mayfly below the 9th level of origin energy? The 4 great clans will definitely be able to rely on it. They might withdraw their forces and not go all out. Of course, the hidden immortal continent might also use the innate 5-element flags to protect the last of the human race. If it can't, then it can't. At least I will know if you have the ability to protect yourself. Princess Xia covered her mouth and laughed, Xiao Hua is too impatient. There are no mayflies here. Moreover, even if I can deal with mayflies, the size and strength of the mayflies are different. Also, I can refine the Xianyuan water control flag, but the patriarchs of the 4 great clans might not be able to refine the 4-element flags. There might not be a conclusion. Hee, that's true. Xiao Hua laughed and said, let's talk as we go. Because I saw the godly demon puppet of the godly demon Shueze, I felt that I could sweep through the 3 continents with it. But today, seeing that the godly demon puppet can't deal with the mayflies, I thought of the innate 5-element flags. Since that's the case, Princess Xia suggested, Xiao Hua shouldn't place too much hope on the innate 5-element flags. After all, these are only 5 innate Dharma artifacts. It's impossible to protect the 3 continents, and the people you care about the most. It's even more impossible. That's right. Xiao Hua sighed and also jumped into the flying carriage. He laughed bitterly and said, I'm like a person who fell into the water. I want to grab every single strand of water plant. I don't want to give up any chance. Actually, Princess Xia leaned her head on Xiao Hua's shoulder and said, there are countless cultivators in the 3 continents. The one who shouldn't panic the most is you. But you are more anxious than any of them. I'm just worried for nothing. Xiao Hua moved his shoulder to let Princess Xia lean on him more comfortably and answered helplessly. Princess Xia liked Xiao Hua's thoughtfulness. She took the initiative to pull Xiao Hua's hand from her back and waist and said with a smile, tell me about your childhood stories. Okay. Xiao Hua nodded. He released the netherworld origin power and absorbed the wandering souls in the hidden immortal continent into the dark side of the space. At the same time, he found fragments of his scattered memories and told Princess Xia stories from the distant past. Time always passes quickly, and happiness is always shallow. No one can stop the footsteps of time, and no one can be satisfied with their own happiness. Along the way, with Xiao Hua accompanying her, there were laughter, memories, sweetness, and warmth. Princess Xia didn't want the flying carriage to reach Xiao Empire so quickly. However, there is always an end to the road. One day, Princess Xia was leaning on Xiao Hua's solid shoulder and listening happily. Suddenly, she felt Xiao Hua's body move slightly. Princess Xia was immediately alarmed. She hurriedly stood up and asked, "What's wrong?" "What I'm afraid of has come." Xiao Hua's eyes narrowed. His face was as calm as water as he looked ahead and said angrily. However, it was only for a moment. His eyebrows were the same again, and his face became even more strange. He asked curiously, Why is she here? What are you talking about?" Princess Xia was puzzled. However, she didn't use her golden pupils. She knew that her cultivation was far inferior to Xiao Hua's. "Why are you talking about it so randomly? Who do you think she is?" Xiao Hua replied snappily. "Naturally, she is afraid of the mayflies." Princess Xia said, "If the mayflies besieged Xiao Empire, it wouldn't be strange. Along the way, we also encountered many mayflies attacks. However, who is that she you mentioned in the end? What do you think?" Xiao Hua said and took out the Kunlun mirror. Damn it. Seeing Xiao Hua take out the Kunlun mirror, the pure and beautiful Princess Xia immediately understood something. She scolded angrily, "Why is there no end to it? Does she want people to give her face or not?" Xiao Hua activated the Kunlun mirror and pulled the Thunderbolt spiritual master out of the space. Seeing that Xiao Hua called him out, the Thunderbolt spiritual master's face was filled with unhappiness. He muttered, "Fellow Daoist, don't favor one and discriminate against the other. Daoist witch's strength has already surpassed I. Why don't you pull him out? Why do you make I come out for everything? Your own matters naturally have to be dealt with by yourself." Xiao Hua snappily pointed forward and said, "She has already chased you all the way to Xiao Empire. Do you still want I to wipe your ass? Who dares?" The Thunderbolt spiritual master immediately became arrogant. His divine sense rushed towards the distance like a wave. However, when he saw who it was, his imposing manner immediately dissipated. However, a moment later, he coldly snorted again. His figure turned into lightning and rushed into the sky. He shouted, "Fellow Daoist, don't worry. Today, I will give you an answer. I don't believe that I can't shake her off." Humph. Damn it. Xiao Hua knew that the Thunderbolt spiritual master was inhumane. He hurriedly shouted, "You must not take her life. If I don't kill her, how can she leave?" The Thunderbolt spiritual master coldly replied, "It can't be." Princess Xia was dumbfounded. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something. After all, the root of this matter was the Thunderbolt spiritual master's immoral character. However, Princess Xia was afraid of hurting the relationship between Xiao Hua and the Thunderbolt spiritual master, so she kept her mouth shut. She then hurriedly shouted, "Darling Xiao, quickly, don't let the Thunderbolt spiritual master take sister's life." The sky above Xiao Empire was also filled with world destruction mayflies. Fortunately, these world destruction mayflies were not as big as the ones that had attacked the Duanmu family. Most of them were less than 10 zhang, and only a few were several hundred zhang or even several hundred zhang. Even so, the number of world destruction mayflies was too large. The Fortune Gate disciples guarding Xiao Empire were far from enough to block all the world destruction mayflies. These disciples would fly to the east side to kill the world destruction mayflies, and when the sky was clear, they would immediately fly to the west side to defend. It was a chaotic scene. Fujiwen was an inner disciple appointed by Xiao Hua to guard Xiao Empire. He was supposed to be in charge of dispatching the world destruction mayflies, but now, there was no one to deal with the several hundred zhang world destruction mayflies. He could only use the small heaven and earth pagoda to deal with the world destruction mayflies. The several hundred zhang world destruction mayflies had the strength of an 8th grade essence force cultivator, similar to Fujiwen. Moreover, the surface of the world destruction mayflies was tough, and Fujiwen's heaven and earth pagoda could not break through them. Every time a world destruction mayfly's stinger or hind leg slashed through the void, Fujiwen could only dodge or use the heavenly book's runes to block. He was already at a disadvantage. In Fujiwen's right hand, there was a variant true chi pellet given to him by Xiao Hua. He could kill the several hundred Zhang world destruction mayflies at any time, but Fujiwen did not dare to do so. Because when he saw the swarm of world destruction mayflies, he had a feeling that there were more powerful world destruction mayflies hiding in the void. He could still block the 8th grade essence force world destruction mayflies, but if the 1000 Zhang world destruction mayflies appeared, he would lose his medicinal pellet. That would mean that he, the Fortune Gate's disciples, and the Shao Empire's citizens would all be killed by the world destruction mayflies. Fujiwen's thoughts were not wrong, but his hesitation had thrown the battle into chaos. The disorder exhausted the Fortune Gate's disciples. Gradually, the world destruction mayflies broke through the Fortune Gate's disciples' defenses and landed on the ground's matured seeds and soil. Damn it! Fujiwen had already seen this and cursed inwardly. Just as he was about to leave the battle, a swoosh sound was heard as the world destruction mayfly's stinger pierced through the void, shattering the talismans around him. Fujiwen was alarmed and hurriedly calmed himself down. Puff! The stinger pierced through his sleeve. Fortunately, it did not injure him. Sweat dripped down Fujiwen's forehead, but he did not dare to hesitate and teleported again. Just as he left the original spot, a swoosh sound was heard as the world destruction mayfly's hind leg chopped down. Humph! Just as Fujiwen was stuck between a rock and a hard place, a cold snort sounded from somewhere in the Shao Empire. Then, a four-colored cloud rose into the sky, and a beautiful woman in plain clothes flew into the sky under the protection of another beautiful woman. Although this woman was wearing plain clothes, it was unable to conceal her peerless elegance. Her every movement exuded an indescribable elegance and grace. Looking at this woman's thin lips and sorrowful almond-shaped eyes, wasn't she Princess Qingqing? Then, the woman beside Princess Qingqing was naturally Yu Xiaojing. Princess Qingqing's figure landed on the ground, and a golden light flickered in her eyes. She looked at Fujiwen for a moment, then called out, "Fujiwen, I'm indebted to you for taking me in these past few days. Today, I'll help you." Then, Princess Qingqing shouted, "Fortune Gate's disciples with 7th grade origin energy, listen to my command. Form a long snake formation and increase the distance between each other as much as possible. Make sure that the world destruction mayflies with 6th grade origin energy and below can pass through, and only block the world destruction mayflies with 7th grade origin energy." Princess Qingqing was clearly using the deafening divine ability of a Confucian cultivator. Her voice reverberated in the air above the Shao Empire, as if she was giving orders to every Fortune Gate's disciple. Unfortunately, Princess Qingqing was still Princess Qingqing. Although she had a noble status, none of the Fortune Gate's disciples obeyed her command. Damn it! Princess Qingqing was slightly angered, and shouted, "Fujiwen, if you don't want the Shao Empire's people to die in the mouths of the world destruction mayflies, then hurry up and follow my command. I know my cultivation is not as good as yours, but I know how to arrange troops. All right." Fujiwen thought for a moment as he dodged the world destruction mayflies. He gritted his teeth and said, "Disciples, listen to Princess Qingqing's command." Yes. Receiving the order, the Fortune Gate's disciples with 7th grade origin energy quickly formed a long snake formation, increasing the distance between them and the world destruction mayflies. This is a good disciple of the Lightning Gate. Princess Qingqing's eyes narrowed into slits as she smiled. She hurriedly ordered, "Disciples with 7th grade origin energy will form the first layer of defense. The rest of the disciples with 6th grade origin energy will form the second layer of defense. 20 li away from the first layer, 2 or 3 people will block the first layer of defense. The second layer of defense will only block the world destruction mayflies with 5th grade origin energy and will not be affected. Those with 5th grade origin energy will form the third layer of defense, and it will be the same as the first 2 layers." Princess Qingqing explained the formation in a few words, and the Fortune Gate's disciples obeyed. They formed a 5-layer defensive formation, blocking all the world destruction mayflies in the air. What was special was that the entire formation was orderly, and there was no longer any panic like before. Chapter 47:19. What do you think? Princess Qingqing asked Fu Jiwen with a smile. What could Fu Jiwen say? However, he was almost out of breath from the mayfly's attack, so how could he have the time to care about her? However, right when Princess Qingqing was feeling complacent, a tail stinger that seemed like a sword that could hold up the sky suddenly shot out from high up in the sky, and it shot towards Princess Qingqing with lightning speed. This stinger easily pierced through the Fortune Gate disciples' 5-layer defensive formation and landed on top of Princess Qingqing's head. Wherever the tail landed, the space within 1,000 feet was shrouded. The sharp wind tore the void apart, and the power of the spatial fissure mixed with the sharpness of the tail. Princess Qingqing was sucked into a spatial vortex, and layers of spatial fragments drifted towards her like snowflakes. Although the snowflakes were beautiful, they were also fatal. Leaving aside the fact that Princess Qingqing's flesh and blood would inevitably be reduced to dust, even if the stinger struck Princess Qingqing would definitely perish. Your Highness. Yu Xiaojing was shocked. She wanted to rush over to save Princess Qingqing, but her cultivation was too shallow. How could she compare to the 9th grade origin energy mayfly? Princess Qingqing did not show any signs of panic. Instead, she raised her head to look at the pitch-black void and the stinger of space fragments. Not only did she not activate her sub-bodies, she did not even use any of her scholarly cultivator's divine abilities. Her eyes were glazed over as she muttered, I'm finally going to die. If I die, will that enemy feel sad? Damn it. Fu Jiwen naturally wanted to save the several hundred zhang long mayfly, but he did not expect that the mayfly would attack Princess Qingqing instead of him. At this point, even if he wanted to throw out the pill, he would not be able to save Princess Qingqing from certain death. However, at this moment, a thunderous rumble resounded in the sky. It was as if a huge horned dragon had appeared in the sky and struck the void. The void was torn apart by the lightning, and a several hundred zhang long mayfly appeared. The lightning was like a miraculous elixir, enlarging the mayfly's body in an instant. The stinger on the mayfly's tail swelled at the same time. Layers of grayish-white mist emerged from the gaps between the rust spots on the mayfly's body and quickly spread throughout its entire body. After obtaining the power of lightning, Fu naturally didn't have the time to care about a tiny ant like Princess Qingqing. Instead, he focused all of his attention on devouring the lightning essence. Rumble. 2 hands of lightning, each over 100 feet in size, flew through the air. One of them struck Fu Yu while the other clenched its fist in midair. Not only did it shatter the spatial rift, but it also grabbed Princess Qingqing. Seeing such a crude action in the familiar aura of thunder, Princess Qingqing's heart couldn't help but wet. She gritted her teeth and didn't let her tears fall. She even used her hands to hit the lightning hand that was grabbing her body. Unfortunately, the lightning hand was as hard and emotionless as the lightning sage's heart. No matter how hard Princess Qingqing tried, she couldn't shake it. Boom. After several bolts of lightning, the mayfly, which was only at the lower 9th grade of essence energy, exploded from the force of the lightning as expected. Kill. At the same time, high in the sky above the Shao country, countless Fortune Gate's disciples rushed out in groups. Since the mayflies dared to attack the Shao country, how could Shao Hua allow them to live? As for Princess Qingqing, the light in front of her flickered and she was already outside the area where the mayflies were killed. After the lightning hand disappeared, the lightning sage's ashen face appeared in front of her. You. Princess Qingqing only managed to say one word before she couldn't say anything else. The grievances that she had been suppressing turned into hot tears that flowed down her cheeks. Tears might be able to move Shao Hua, but in the lightning sage's eyes, they were merely tears. They were meaningless. He coldly asked, why did you come here instead of staying in the Immortal Palace and being your princess? You. Princess Qingqing bit her lips until they were bleeding. She only managed to say one word before she didn't know what else to say. However, when she used her sleeve to wipe away the tears on her face, she raised her head and revealed a stubborn and cold face. However, on this cold face, a pair of sorrowful eyes were especially striking. Princess Qingqing's voice was filled with grief and indignation as she screamed at the top of her lungs, "Didn't you see everything during the Jade Lake Conference? I have already confessed to the world in front of all the sovereigns. I have already given you my chastity. How can I still have the face to stay in the Immortal Palace? How can I dare to stay in the Immortal Palace? After the Jade Lake Conference, I lost the title of princess. If it wasn't for Mother secretly letting me go, I'm afraid I wouldn't even be able to come to the Shao country. I would have already been sentenced to death by His Majesty." Chastity? What is chastity? The lightning sage asked indifferently. You. Princess Qingqing only managed to say one word. She was so angry that she couldn't say anything else. How could she say that her chastity had been humiliated in front of a man? She gritted her teeth and continued, "Princess Xia merely lost half of her heart and was suppressed by His Majesty in the Longevity Town for several hundred years. Now, I've lost the chastity that Confucian cultivators value the most. I've lost the face of the Immortal Palace. If I don't escape, the only thing left for me is death. If you want to die, so be it. What does it have to do with I?" The lightning sage's expression remained unchanged. Princess Qingqing's heart instantly turned cold. She really didn't understand. With such a beautiful appearance, she had to lower herself to beg this person. Although she didn't say it out loud, but did he not understand? Could it be that he was so heartless? "I do want to die." Princess Qingqing gritted her teeth and said, "But even if I die, I want to die in front of you. I want to tell you that I'm dying for you. I want you to feel uneasy for the rest of your life. I want you to never forget me for the rest of your life." Hee, impossible. The lightning sage laughed coldly and said, "What's so good about you? How can I not forget you? You." Princess Qingqing had never met such a heartless man in her life. She was truly speechless. It was as if the word warmth didn't exist in this man's words at all. Lei Ting. Princess Qingqing finally abandoned her strong shell and begged a man for the first time in her life. When this concubine left Jade Lake, Imperial Mother secretly told this concubine to be gentle to men, to be true to men, to be docile to men. But I've always wanted to be strong. I've never known the word gentle. I know I'm not good, but apart from you, no one else wants me. I don't have a home, I don't have any relatives. If you don't want me, then I can only die. Lightning, I'm begging you. Scram. The lightning sage rolled his eyes and slapped Princess Qingqing's face. This slap didn't just cause Princess Qingqing's face to swell, it even sent her body tumbling in the air. "Your Highness." Yu Xiaojing cried out in pain from afar. She wanted to fly over. "Stop." Although Princess Qingqing couldn't stand properly, she still coldly called out, "This is a private matter between me and Lightning. You don't have to interfere." "But," Yu Xiaojing anxiously said, "but this lightning sage has a heart of stone. Your Highness. You'll die in his hands." "Huh, die. At this point, do you think I'm afraid of death? I'm more than happy to die in Lightning's hands." Princess Qingqing laughed and flew over. She looked at the Thunderclap Immortal with tender eyes and said gently, "Thunderclap, I never thought that I would love a man so deeply. I also never thought that I would fall in love with a Taoist cultivator. But when this love came, only then did I know." Scram. Before Princess Qingqing could finish, the lightning sage waved his hand and sent her flying. However, Princess Qingqing still climbed up and struggled to fly in front of the lightning sage. She still said, "I knew I'm a woman. I need a man to protect me. I was heartless and cold-blooded because I didn't understand love. I'm afraid of the feeling of being loved. I'm also afraid of being given to the 4 great families as a gift by His Majesty. Scram. The Thunderbolt Immortal was somewhat impatient. This time, he actually lifted his foot and kicked Princess Qingqing several hundred feet away. He continued to say, I've never seen a woman as cheap as you. I don't want you anymore and you're still pestering me. If you come over again, don't blame me for being ruthless. Blood was dripping from the corner of Princess Qingqing's mouth, but she still forced a smile and flew over. Your Highness. Yu Xiaojing knelt in the air and cried, don't lower yourself like this. He'll really kill you. Lightning, I know you don't love me, and I know you don't like me. She definitely won't let me appear in the Fortune Gate. Princess Qingqing was full of smiles. Her beautiful face was flushed with blood, and it was incomparably beautiful. But the world is so big, and there's no place for this concubine anymore. If you don't like this concubine, and think that this concubine is like a mosquito disturbing you, then do it. Dying in your hands is 1,000 times better than dying on His Majesty's immortal beheading stage. I beg you, do it. I don't want to live in this heartless world anymore. Hee hee. The Thunderbolt Immortal sneered. He grabbed Princess Qingqing's slender neck with one hand as if he was grabbing a chick. He said, do you think I don't dare to do it? Even if you are a princess, if I kill you, old man Gaochen won't even dare to fart. He. Princess Qingqing felt like she couldn't breathe. Her vision darkened, and she saw stars. She knew that the lightning sage really wanted to kill her. However, when she saw the Thunderbolt Immortal's sinister smile, Princess Qingqing actually felt relaxed. Strangely, she didn't feel any hatred. Her face was flushed and blood was flowing. Her bloodshot eyes were still rippling with happiness. It was as if being able to be with the Thunderbolt Immortal at the last moment of her life was also a happy thing. In the distant sky, Princess Xia was anxious. Previously, when the lightning sage knocked Princess Qingqing down several times, she still had a cold smile on her face. She knew that this was Princess Qingqing's trick. However, in the end, when she heard Princess Qingqing's words and saw how Princess Qingqing was unafraid of death and how the lightning reverend was about to kill her, she suddenly understood that she might have been wrong about Princess Qingqing. In this world, if there was only one force that could change people, that would be love. Princess Qingqing's feelings for the lightning sage might really be true love. Darling Xiao, hurry. Princess Xia couldn't help but shout, Big sister is going to die. Don't worry. Although Xiao Hua's heart was burning with anxiety, he could clearly feel that the Thunderbolt Immortal's emotions were fluctuating and changing like a stormy sea. If nothing unexpected happened, the Thunderbolt Immortal had also reached the crucial moment of his human nature. What do you mean don't be anxious? Hurry. Princess Xia made a prompt decision and roared, Stop the lightning sage immediately. Xiao Hua had never seen Princess Xia so angry. He didn't dare to be negligent and was about to send a message to the lightning sage in his mind. It was also at this moment that something strange happened. The blood at the corner of Princess Qingqing's mouth slowly dripped onto the lightning sage's wrist. The lightning sage was stunned. His hand stopped, and then he dipped a finger into the blood and put it in his mouth. After a moment, he frowned and said, Why is your blood so salty? Oh, why are you crying? Why is my heart so chaotic when I see you cry? Why does my heart feel like it's being twisted by a knife? He. Princess Qingqing naturally couldn't speak. She struggled a few times and opened her mouth to cry a few times. The Thunderbolt Immortal loosened his grip. Cough, cough, cough. Princess Qingqing collapsed in the air and coughed with all her might. She raised her head and cried out, Thunderbolt, why didn't you kill me? If I kill you, my heart will ache. I won't kill you. The lightning sage actually replied woodenly. You. Princess Qingqing couldn't say another word. Tears of happiness gushed out of her eyes. This man named Lei Ting didn't say the word love, but his words were much more expressive than the word love. Lightning. Princess Qingqing whispered, I know you're the same as me. I'm infatuated with power, and you're infatuated with cultivation. Otherwise, you definitely wouldn't have cultivated to the grand ascension stage in the hidden immortal continent. So, you and I don't understand love. Actually, your heartache means you love me. The lightning sage raised his hand again. It looked like he was going to slap her, but he withdrew his hand halfway. It seemed like he would also feel heartache if he did this. The lightning sage was at a loss. He turned his head and looked at Xiao Hua for help. Boom! A 5-colored rainbow bridge appeared in the distance. Xiao Hua held Princess Zixia's hand and stepped on the rainbow bridge with a smile on his face. Congratulations, fellow lightning sage. Congratulations, fellow lightning sage. Xiao Hua flew closer and raised his hand with a smile. You finally know what love is. The lightning sage shook his head slightly, seemingly embarrassed. He replied, fellow Taoist, you're making fun of me. I don't seem to understand. It doesn't matter. With Princess Qingqing by your side, you'll understand sooner or later. Xiao Hua replied with a smile. As for Princess Zixia, she looked at Princess Qingqing with a complicated expression. She stared into Princess Qingqing's eyes, and Princess Qingqing walked over without backing down. Qingqing. After a while, Princess Zixia said, I don't know if what you said just now is true. I also don't know if this is all part of His Majesty and Imperial Mother's plan. I only want to say that Xiao Hua and the Fortune Gate don't have any ambition to dominate the world. I'm here. I beg you to let the Fortune Gate go. This kind of self-injury trick is really meaningless. Although Princess Zixia said beg, her tone was very unyielding. How could it sound like she was begging? Princess Qingqing's tone softened when she saw this. She replied, Xin, I've been fighting with you since we were young. If you like something, even if I don't like it, I'll take it. I'd rather throw it away and destroy it than let you have it. To be honest, I don't regret everything that happened before. I also don't want to apologize to you. However, today, at this moment, I can tell you that I'm sincere. I truly love lightning. I beg you, can you give me a way out? Let me and lightning have some space, some chance. Princess Zixia was very helpless. From a woman's intuition, she could feel that Princess Qingqing's words came from the bottom of her heart. There were no lies. However, from her many years of fighting with Princess Qingqing, Princess Zixia very rationally told herself that Princess Qingqing was definitely not a gentle woman. How could she easily lower her head? She looked helplessly at Xiao Hua, then looked at the lightning Taoist whose face was as solemn as a mountain. Her heart was extremely conflicted. However, after a while, Princess Zixia said, since you've said so, Xiao Hua and I will respect lightning Taoist's choice. At the same time, we also want to see the true love in your heart. However, little sister has to say the ugly words first. If you have any other plans or ideas, I absolutely won't allow it. The Fortune Gate is the Tao Sex Fortune Gate. It is the Fortune Gate of Xiao Hua, Lightning Taoist, and all of the Fortune Gate's Fortune Gate. The Fortune Gate will not allow Confucian cultivators to meddle with it, nor will it allow any conspiracy to exist. It's just a Fortune Gate. I really don't care about it. Princess Qingqing replied without backing down. If Lightning Taoist wasn't here, I wouldn't even bother to set foot here. Moreover, you can rest assured that I only want to stay by Lightning Taoist's side. Even if you want me to interfere with the Fortune Gate's matters, I won't care. I hope everything you've said is true. Princess Zixia warned meaningfully. Otherwise, when the time comes, you will definitely regret it. Don't worry, Princess Zixia. I've already done many things that I regret. At this point, I absolutely won't regret it. Princess Qingqing said as she quietly flew closer to the Lightning Taoist. The lightning Taoist impatiently said, "Don't come so close, I'm not used to it." Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support. Chapter 47:20. Yes, this concubine understands. Facing Princess Zixia, Princess Qingqing maintained a cold expression, not giving her any face. However, seeing the lightning Taoist, a smile appeared on Princess Qingqing's face, and her figure stopped. Fellow Taoist lightning. Xiao Hua said, "If you keep Princess Qingqing, then you can't return to the Kunlun Immortal grounds to cultivate. Have you made your decision?" "No." Princess Qingqing hurriedly said, "I can't delay lightning Taoist's cultivation, I'll stay in Shao country." "Since when is it your turn to decide this daddy's matters?" Lightning Taoist glared at Princess Qingqing. Princess Qingqing immediately lowered her head, like a wronged wife, not daring to say anything. Lightning Taoist said to Xiao Hua, "I have been thinking of something recently, so I won't cultivate for now. Let's go to the Western Sea to kill the mayflies." Looking at the Thunderbolt Immortal, who was annoyed at being disturbed just a moment ago, now having such a change in attitude, Xiao Hua smiled and nodded. "Sure. Your Highness." Yu Xiaojing quietly flew over, her face pale. The scene just now had scared her to death. "Don't call me princess anymore." Princess Qingqing glanced at Princess Zixia and said, "I'm no longer a princess, call me young miss, or Qingqing." "Yes, young miss." Yu Xiaojing replied in a low voice. At this moment, in the sky above Shao country, countless mayflies rushed out from the cracks in the void that appeared from time to time. They were like locusts that were commonly seen in the countryside as they rushed towards the ground. The citizens of the Shao Empire had long sensed the danger, but they did not wait for death. Instead, they called out to Zhenren Shao, as if they were praying for protection. Then, they rushed out from various houses and brought the firewood, grass, and other things to the fields. As they lit these things up, they waved their wooden sticks, clothes, and other things, blocking the mayflies just like how they hunted and drove away locusts in the past. Seeing such a familiar scene, Xiao Hua couldn't help sighing. The prayers of millions of Shao country's citizens made him feel a warm current flowing to the crystal-like godhead behind his head. What adorable citizens, ah! Xiao Hua took out the Kunlun mirror, preparing to release more Fortune Gate disciples. However, Princess Zixia only faintly smiled, as if she was provoking Princess Qingqing. She arrogantly said to Xiao Hua, "Why use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken? Let's see what I can do." Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He nodded and said with a smile, "I'd like to see what your highness is capable of." Hearing Xiao Hua call her, "Your Highness the Princess," which was the complete opposite of what Princess Qingqing had just said, Princess Zixia faintly smiled. Raising her hand, she took out the Shenyuan water control flag. As she gently waved it, countless water-green jade talismans flew down like dandelions. In an instant, they covered 1,000 miles of the Shao Empire's territory. And in that area, there were several inches of mayflies that were extremely rampant. Good. Seeing that Ying Luo had separated the mayfly from where it landed, the mayfly first flew around like a headless fly before lunging at Ying Luo in a frenzy. It actually swallowed the light that even the Son of Heaven's sword and the Heaven and Earth pagoda could not break through. Xiao Hua had just praised it when his expression changed slightly. The mayfly's power was not beyond his expectations. Humph. At the side, Qingqing coldly snorted and said, "The innate 5-element flag is only SOSO." "Shut up." The Thunderbolt Immortal roared, "Did I let you speak?" Qingqing faintly smiled and did not speak again. Looking at that smile, even if the Thunderbolt Immortal scolded her, he was still talking to her. This made her really happy. On the other hand, Yu Xiaojing, who was watching from the side, felt that it was not worth it for Qingqing. "It's all right." Princess Zixia looked at Xiao Hua's worry and laughed softly. "Ying Luo is not an appearance. It's not the foundation of the Shenyuan water control flag. These mayflies can't hurt me. Xiaohua pinched his chin and said thoughtfully, what I'm worried about is not the Shenyuan water control flag. After all, this is the most powerful innate spiritual treasure I've ever seen. What I'm worried about is whether the mayfly that swallowed this Yingluo will advance again. Moreover, the area that this Shenyuan water control flag can protect is still too small. Princess Xia embarrassedly shook her head. My cultivation is still shallow. This is all I can do. If I want to protect the entire Shao Empire, I still need to cultivate for many years. Xiaohua smiled and said, You've already done very well. With this Shenyuan water control flag, I believe. Even if a 9th grade mayfly comes, you won't be harmed. Princess Xia urged her true qi to investigate and exclaimed, Darling Shao, these mayflies are really swallowing the Yingluo, and they're doing it very quickly. Don't Confucian cultivators often say that there's strength in numbers? Xiaohua smiled and said, These mayflies are much more numerous than ordinary humans. Although their strength is minuscule, when gathered together, they can't be underestimated. This is the strongest defensive treasure of the human race. If you're not careful, I'm afraid that they'll break through it. I understand. Princess Xia urged the Shenyuan water control flag. Layers of Yingluo flowed like water waves, driving away all the mayflies from the Yingluo. When the mayflies swooped down to swallow again, they actually couldn't do it. Good. Seeing Princess Xia's intelligence, Xiaohua couldn't help but clap his hands and say, People often say that running water never rots, and it seems to be true. Hearing Xiaohua's praise, Princess Xia somewhat proudly glanced at Qing. However, Qing's heart wasn't on Princess Xia's side at all. Instead, she lowered her head and stole glances at the Thunderbolt Immortal, as if he was the only person in her world. Could it be? I was really wrong? Princess Xia couldn't help but feel apologetic in her heart. Putting aside Princess Xia's guilt, Xiaohua looked at the already stable situation and raised his hand to take the Kunlun mirror in his hand. As the light trembled, the divine power puppet Little Gold flew out. As soon as Little Gold came out, a dragon-shaped phantom rushed into the sky, and even a bit of the world-destroying mayfly's aura appeared. Little Gold, go. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Kill a few mayflies. Yes, master. Little Gold's voice appeared in Xiaohua's mind. Then, with a flash of golden light, it rushed into the swarm of insects. Little Gold was like a wolf in a flock of sheep. After it flew in, it waved its antennae as if it had seen something, cutting the mayflies in two. It was very brave and fierce. Unfortunately, after a short while, Xiaohua frowned again. Because the mayflies that were cut in two by Little Gold quickly turned back into two low-level mayflies, and they didn't seem to be killed. In other words, Little Gold couldn't really kill the mayflies. Come back. Little Gold. Xiaohua called out in his heart, and he was quite disappointed. Because in Xiaohua's memory, Little Gold had swallowed Dragon Siren and also swallowed the essence of mayflies, and because of this, it had mutated. If even it couldn't kill the mayflies, then the other spiritual pets wouldn't be able to either. After Little Gold returned to the space, Xiaohua took out the Ice Worm King. The mayflies that Xiaohua had encountered before were all extremely powerful, and he hadn't had the chance to test them out one by one. Now was the perfect time to test out Princess Xia's Shenyuan water control flag, as well as these spiritual pets that had been separated by yin and yang. As soon as the Ice Worm King appeared, it immediately sealed the space within a radius of several hundred feet. Unfortunately, other than the thumb-sized mayfly that exploded, the other mayflies all rushed to devour the frozen space, and their size even increased. Seeing that his two most powerful spiritual pets were useless, Xiaohua was a little disappointed. I'm afraid it won't work. Xiaohua put the Ice Worm King into the space, and then let out Little Thunder and Little Silver. Unfortunately, as soon as Little Silver came out of the space, its nose sniffed the air, and its fat body immediately curled up into a ball, and it didn't go forward at all. Although Little Thunder was powerful, with every movement it made, it was still inferior to Xiao Hua's hand of lightning, and naturally couldn't kill the mayflies. Forget it. Xiao Hua was completely disheartened. In his heart, he already somewhat understood that these mayflies were from the previous generation. Even if one of his spirit pets had the ability to restrain them, it was still impossible for it to exterminate hundreds of millions of mayflies. After putting away Little Thunder and Little Silver, Xiao Hua pondered for a moment, then once again took out the spirit grasses from the spirit world, some spirit wood from the chaos divine world, and other things from other spaces to try. Unfortunately, all of his attempts failed one after another. Nothing could stop that black hole that could kill mayflies and devour everything. In the end, Xiao Hua simply stopped trying and stood in the air, watching over the situation. With Xiao Hua and the Thunderbolt Master overseeing the situation, and with the support of Shenhua Mainland's Fortune Gate's disciples, the mayflies besieging the Shao country were gradually eliminated. Looking at the mayflies throwing themselves at the ground and the seeds that had already been planted, Xiao Hua couldn't help but smile wryly. He clearly knew that his grain seeds must have attracted the attention of the mayflies. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua no longer had the chance to regret. If he didn't have these seeds in the past, the Shao country and the burial Immortal Mainland's common people would have starved to death. Now, the seeds had spread all over the burial Immortal Mainland, and they had become the targets of the mayflies. Several days later, the mayflies were finally exterminated. Fu Jiwen's face was full of shame as he saluted Xiao Hua, saying that he had failed Xiao Hua's trust. Xiao Hua comforted him with a smile. In the face of a great calamity, it was enough to protect the Shao country's common people's lives. What burden was there to speak of? Xiao Hua took out the Kunlun mirror and asked the Thunderbolt Master to recall the Shenhua Mainland's Fortune Gate's disciples into the space. He then said to Fu Jiwen, "What do the Shao country's people say about leaving?" At the mention of this matter, Fu Jiwen answered with a wry smile, "Master, people often say that it's hard to leave one's homeland, and it's true. This disciple has already sent many people to spread the benefits of the Kunlun paradise, but most of them feel that the Shao country is the paradise of the burial Immortal Mainland, and are unwilling to leave. Moreover, this disciple has also told them how powerful the strange insects are, but they believe that with Master's protection, they will definitely be able to exterminate the strange insects." Blind trust. Xiao Hua suddenly felt the burden on his shoulders become heavier, and he sighed. "Xiao Hua, this matter is your fault," Qingqing suddenly said from afar. "Shut up." Before she could finish, the Thunderbolt Master angrily said, "I didn't ask you to speak." Xiao Hua was stunned, and asked curiously, "What did I do wrong?" Qingqing looked at the Thunderbolt Master, not daring to speak. "Speak." The Thunderbolt Master simply spat out a word. "Yes." Qingqing hurriedly said, "The Shao country is named after your surname, and these people are also your people. You didn't explain the situation clearly to them, but let your disciple." "What is this?" "This kind of matter of showing one's face and winning over people's hearts, anyone would run to the front, even His Majesty the Immortal Emperor would not be an exception. You, on the other hand, only let your disciple do it. Whether or not your disciple was sent by you, whether or not he used your name, those people will know. They only know your name devoutly. Moreover, what is the Kunlun paradise? It is useless to just talk about it, these vulgar people will not understand. You have to take out the real situation of the Kunlun paradise for them to see, even if it is an illusion." "And, you are right." Xiao Hua nodded, "This Xiao has learned." "What are you talking about?" Princess Xia said unhappily, "What do you know?" Darling Xiao first went to the Jade Pool gathering, then went to Dragon Island, Great Sage Hall and Lei Temple. For the sake of the life and death of the billions of people in the 3 continents, how could he have time to come to the Shao country? Of course I don't know what Daoist Xiao is talking about these days. When Qingqing heard that Xiao Hua actually went back and forth to several holy lands, her heart was also shocked, and her respect for him gradually grew. However, she still insisted, "I am just talking about the facts." Qingqing's temper was like this. She could lower her proud head for a man, for an unprecedented love, and give up her noble life, but she could not suddenly change. Princess Xia naturally understood. Although her tolerance was not as broad as Xiao Hua's, seeing that she did not refute, it seemed like she was trying to be tolerant. Xiao Hua waited for a while, and when he saw that Lightning Taoist had accepted the Fortune Gate's disciples, he was about to ask for the Kunlun mirror when he saw Prince Lan, Li Xiang, and Xiongni flying over to greet him. Xiao Hua looked at the three people coming over, then glanced at Fu Jiwen. Fu Jiwen shook his head slightly, then nodded indifferently, making Xiao Hua a little confused. However, he did not have time to ask, as Prince Lan and the others had already flown over. After greeting, the three of them apologized, saying that they were not good at ruling the country. Xiao Hua frowned, and helped the three of them up, saying, "When did the three of you become so unscrupulous? Master has never blamed the three of you, so why do you blame yourselves?" Princess Qingqing has already said that this matter is Master's fault. Master did not pay enough attention to the Shao Empire. When Lightning Taoist returns, Master will personally persuade him. Yes, disciple knows his mistake. The three of them looked relaxed and stood at the side, waiting for Xiao Hua to make a move. But a moment later, Prince Lan seemed to have thought of something, and slapped his forehead, then flew out in a hurry. He took out a jade eye and handed it to Xiao Hua, saying, "Master, this is from Taoist Qing Su. He said that the Grand Mist Ancestor has something to tell Master. There is a restriction on this jade eye, so disciple cannot see it, so disciple does not know what it is." Disciple had almost forgotten about it these few days because of the strange insects. "Please forgive Master." And Xiao Hua's heart tightened, but the expression on his face did not change. He nodded and received the jade eye. When he raised his hand and tapped on the jade eye, a burst of light flashed, and the restriction placed on the jade eye by the Grand Mist Ancestor was broken. After Xiao Hua placed the jade eye on his forehead and used his divine sense to examine it for a moment, he squeezed out a smile and nodded towards Prince Lan as he said, "Master understands. Your jade eye has really solved a big problem in Master's heart. Being able to do something for Master is disciple's responsibility." A smile appeared on Prince Lan's face. It was a very happy smile. It seemed that helping Xiao Hua was his top priority. Princess Xia naturally did not know about Prince Lan's matter. She was worried that the Grand Mist Ancestor had some kind of scheme, so she asked in a low voice, "Darling Xiao, the Grand Mist Ancestor. What did he say in the jade eye? He is a very shrewd person, you must be careful. Hee, just take a look." Xiao Hua chuckled and was about to pass the jade eye to Princess Xia. However, Xiao Hua hesitated for a moment. After pondering for a moment, he put away the jade eyes and smiled. It seems like this Xiao is not the only one who is obsessed with the world-exterminating ephemera. As a member of the Tao Gate, the Grand Mist Ancestor is also obsessed with this matter. He has found a way to get rid of the strange insects and has invited this Xiao to discuss it with him. If there is anything, we can discuss it at the Fortune Gate. Why do we have to go to the Sky-Bearing Palace? Princess Xia frowned. She did not understand why Xiao Hua kept the jade eye and did not want to show it to her. Xiao Hua smiled and answered, "I feel that human nature is kind. Even if we scheme and quarrel over trivial matters, we should focus on the important matter. However, in the face of this calamity, the human race must prioritize the overall situation and eliminate the world destruction mayflies. Thus, I choose to believe in fellow Taoist primordial chaos and that he has the humanity of a human." As he spoke, he looked at His Highness Lan and praised, "Your Highness Lan, you've done well. If Master and the Grand Mist Ancestor succeed, you will take the most credit. Disciple does not dare to take credit." Prince Lan hurriedly bowed and said, "Disciple was merely passing on the message." In fact, Taoist Qing Su wanted to pass the jade eye to Senior Brother Fu, but Senior Brother Fu happened to be away, so he passed it to Disciple. "It doesn't matter who it is." Xiao Hua smiled and said, eliminating the world-destroying ephemera is the most important thing. As he spoke, the lightning Taoist had already returned. Xiao Hua took the Kunlun mirror and flew into the sky above the Xiao country. He then raised his hand and slapped the top of his head. Boom! Several bolts of lightning shot into the sky, covering the sky within 1,000 li. The Xiao country's citizens had just escaped from the strange insect's attack and were still in a state of shock. Seeing the lightning in the sky again, they trembled with fear. However, when they saw the thunderstorm, which was like a horned dragon, slowly transform into Xiao Hua's figure, the crowd of people couldn't help but burst into tears. One after another, they kneeled on the ground and called out, Daoist Xiao, Daoist Xiao. My people. Xiao Hua's voice is like thunder rumbling in the sky. I am Daoist Master Xiao. Today, I have an important matter to tell you all. Xiao Hua explained the matter of the world exterminating ephemera in a concise manner. In the end, he waved his hand and the Kunlun mirror fell into the air. Wang, wang, wang. The Kunlun mirror let out a rumbling sound, and a huge beam of light shot out from the Kunlun mirror and landed in the sky above Xiao Empire. Then, the situation of Shenhua continent turned into a light projection that appeared in the space of a few thousand miles. Mountain after mountain, mountain after mountain, piece after piece of fertile land, cluster after cluster of mountain flowers, a peaceful scene of men plowing and women weaving slowly appeared in front of the stunned citizens of Xiao Empire. After a full hour, Xiao Hua finally pointed his hand, and the light projection gradually shrunk and disappeared into the Kunlun mirror. Xiao Hua smiled and said, My people, this is the Kunlun wonderland that my disciple told you all about. This place. Although it is not as big as the hidden Immortal continent, it is definitely bigger than Xiao Empire. This is a magic tool that I carry with me. In other words, once you enter the Kunlun wonderland, you will be by my side. I can protect you all at any time. Now, the hidden Immortal continent is being attacked by the world exterminating strange insects, and I have yet to find a way to destroy them. I hope that you all can enter the Kunlun wonderland temporarily to avoid the disaster. After the world exterminating strange insects are destroyed, I will ask for your opinion. If you all want to stay in the Kunlun wonderland, then you can live and reproduce there. If you still want to return to the hidden Immortal continent, then I will send you all back. Don't worry, I will definitely respect your choice. Thank you, Daoist Xiao, for your mercy. We will follow the guidance of Nanwu Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva. Thank you, Guanyin Bodhisattva, for sending us to the Wonderland. The Xiao Empire's citizens no longer had any objections. They all knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the sky to express their gratitude. I still have to go overseas to find a way to kill the world exterminating strange insects, so I can't stay here for long. Seeing this, Xiao Hua added, I ask my Fortune Gate's second master, Lightning Taoist, to send you all into the Kunlun wonderland. Xiao Hua then nodded at Lightning Taoist. Lightning Taoist also transformed into a lightning giant, and with a wave of his hand, the Kunlun mirror appeared in his hand. He said, I will follow the sect master's orders. Thank you, Daoist Xiao, thank you, Lightning Taoist. The Xiao Empire's citizens thanked him again. Alright, you all pack up your belongings. Lightning Taoist said, 10 days later, I will send you all into the Kunlun wonderland. Don't worry, I can take away your houses and belongings. Hearing this, the Xiao Empire's citizens were even more delighted. After kowtowing, they hurriedly left. Subsequently, Xiao Hua and Lightning Taoist withdrew their Dharma images and descended. Xiao Hua looked at Lightning Taoist and Qingxing and said, Fellow Taoist, I still have to rush back to the Western Sea. I'll leave the Xiao Empire to you. Lightning Taoist nodded. Go ahead. I is here. Fu Jiwen, Prince Lan, Li Xiang, Xiong Yi, you all will also assist your martial uncle Lightning in the Xiao Empire. Xiao Hua ordered. Yes, disciple understands. All the disciples bowed. Prince Lan then asked, Master, if the Xiao Empire's citizens are going to the Kunlun wonderland, then what about our Xiao Empire? Are we going to give up? Are we going to give it to Confucian cultivators for nothing? Fujiwen, what do you think? Xiao Hua turned to ask Fujiwen. Fujiwen thought for a moment and smiled. No matter what, the Shao Empire is our Fortune Gate's foundation. We've given up on the soaring Dragon Mountain Range, but the Shao Empire can't be given up for the time being. Moreover, didn't Master say so earlier? After the insect plague is over, the Shao Empire's citizens will return. We have to protect their homeland. Not to mention, the world exterminating strange insects are everywhere. There's no difference between killing them in the West Sea and in the Shao Empire. Disciple feels that we should stay here. You're right. Our Fortune Gate's disciples are also setting up transmission arrays all over the hidden Immortal mainland. They also need a place to stay, and the Shao Empire is the best choice. Xiao Hua smiled faintly and raised his hand. Since that's the case, all of you stay here and let your martial uncle Lightning accompany you. Many thanks, Master. Fujiwen was overjoyed. With the Lightning Taoist by his side, what kind of strange insects would he be afraid of? Prince Lan was happy and nodded at Xiong Yi and Li Xiang. Xiao Hua didn't stay for long. After exchanging a few words with the Lightning Taoist, he led Princess Xia to the flying carriage and left. However, after flying for several tens of thousands of li, Princess Xia couldn't help asking in a low voice, "Darling Shao, Grand Mist Ancestor, what method did he find to kill the mayflies? This concubine is really curious." Hee. Xiao Hua sneered and raised his hand to pass the jade eye to Princess Xia. Princess Xia activated her golden pupils. A golden light appeared in her eyes. That golden light fell on her jade pupils. After a moment, Princess Xia cried out in alarm, "How is this possible? Even the Dragon Island, Great Sage Temple, and Thunder Temple said that there's no spatial passage to the outside world in the 3 continents. How did the Grand Mist Ancestor find it?" Not only that. Xiao Hua replied indifferently, the Rainbow Sea God Seashell, Senior Su, and Fairy Xingyu also said that the 3 continents are strange. The space around them is very tight. If one doesn't enter from the outside world, it's impossible to leave from the inside. Although Fairy Xingyu didn't say it clearly, she vaguely revealed that this might be the reason for the Immortal Array. Even these powerful experts couldn't find the passage, so how could the Grand Mist Ancestor find it? Oh, that's right, look further back. Princess Xia continued to look, and a puzzled expression appeared on her face. She asked curiously, 10,000 Demon World? Metal, wood, and magnetic? What does that mean? Of course, it's outside the soaring cloud side hall. The Grand Mist Ancestor wanted me to bring him in. Xiao Hua explained, I raised a condition, and one of them was for him to give me the 5 elements magnetic. Of course, that was just a joke, and he remembered it in his heart. So he used the metal and wood magnetic as bait, saying that the 10,000 Demon World has it. Moreover, he knows the spatial passage from the 3 continents to the 10,000 Demon World. He lured me into his trap. Oh. Then you in the Shao country. Princess Xia's thoughts were quite meticulous, and she immediately thought of Xiao Hua's strange behavior. Xiao Hua's face turned cold, and he said, "Of course I don't want to see the Grand Mist Ancestor scheming against me when the 3 continents are in danger. I'd rather believe that he does know some ancient secrets, and that this secret spatial passage does exist. I'm even willing to believe that the Grand Mist Ancestor said that the 10,000 Demon World's metal and wood magnetic is real. Therefore, I'm willing to take this risk for this belief. Moreover, there's another secret. My Fortune Gate is not a paradise," that disciple named Prince Lan. After Xiao Hua finished talking about Prince Lan's attack on Changyu, Princess Xia's eyes narrowed, and she nodded, "Darling Xiao, you're casting a long line to catch a big fish, ah. But, at this point, this big fish has no special value. Why don't you pull in the net?" "Yes, I'm just about to pull in the net." Xiao Hua laughed, but there are many ways to pull in the net. If the Grand Mist Ancestor really wants to join hands to kill Fu Yu, and this spatial passage is real, I'll let Prince Lan commit suicide, leaving him a good reputation. If the Grand Mist Ancestor hands over the disciples who attacked Chang Yu, I can reluctantly let bygones be bygones. If this news is false. The sky-bearing palace has no value in the 3 continents. Although I don't want to create a rift between the sects, I can't hold back since they're already forcing me. But, you're risking your life, it's not appropriate. Princess Xia said worriedly. But, compared to the lives of the sky-bearing palace's disciples, this risk is worth it. Xiaohua laughed. Moreover, don't you understand my strength? How can I fall into the Grand Mist Ancestor's trap? Your strength is not bad, I know this. But the Grand Mist Ancestor's schemes are too deep, I'm afraid you're not his opponent. Xiaohua chuckled, I still have the Kunlun mirror. Even if there are 3 Grand Mist Ancestors hiding inside, they won't be a match for me. Io, then why did you give the Kunlun mirror to the lightning Taoist? Princess Xia became anxious when she heard Xiaohua's words, and shouted, quick, stop the Pegasus, go gather the Xiao Empire's people, these 10 days won't make much difference. Seeing that Princess Xia was worried, Xiaohua laughed, Xiao Empire is a test for Prince Lan, this Kunlun mirror might be a test for the lightning Taoist and Princess Qing. Princess Xia understood when she heard Xiaohua's words. She raised her finger and pointed at Xiaohua's forehead. I didn't expect my sect master to be so scheming. But your scheming is wasted. If my sister can't even resist this little temptation, how could she have fought with me for so long in the Immortal Palace? The past is the past, the present is the present. Xiaohua laughed. She had everything before, naturally she wouldn't care about this temptation. But now, she has nothing, maybe she'll swallow this little temptation. Impossible. Princess Xia shook her head. I feel that this time, my sister has really fallen in love. Damn, this lightning Taoist is so unromantic, how did my sister fall in love with him? Hearing Princess Xia say, damn, Xiaohua was dumbstruck, and Princess Xia came to her senses, her cheeks flushed red, and she glared at Xiaohua fiercely. Love is so inexplicable. Xiaohua shrugged with a helpless look, and said, I think. You know it too. Princess Xia rolled her eyes, and a crafty smile appeared on her face. I've already heard the story of Lu Town and Guizhuang House, and I've also helped Xiaohua recover a lot of his memories. I wonder if Xiaohua can tell me about the matters of Xiaoyu continent now? This time. Xiaohua won't lose his memories, right? Xiaohua nodded, and said seriously, I'll let you know about these things sooner or later, and I also want you to tell me about your life in the Immortal Palace. But now that the world-exterminating mayfly is so powerful, and your strength is limited, I want to take advantage of the time now to tell you about the 5 Qis unification technique. Okay. Princess Xia was overjoyed when she heard this, and said, Xiaohua, the 5 Qis unification technique you gave me is really profound, and I've already comprehended enough in these hundreds of years, but every time I take a step forward, I find that there are still many things I don't understand. Previously, when the master of the Scholar Palace was here, I wanted to ask him to explain it to me, but then too many things happened, and I didn't have time. You and the master of the Scholar Palace are good friends, and this 5 Qis unification technique was also given to him by you, so he will definitely explain it to you in detail. Xiaohua's plan succeeded, and he released his divine sense to look into the distance, then raised his hand and said, Let's go, let the Pegasus flying carriage land on the mountain in front, and I will explain the 5 Qis unification technique to you while we wait for the lightning immortal to arrive. Seeing Xiaohua release his divine sense, Princess Xia slightly curled her lips, as if she already knew what Xiaohua was thinking. Xiaohua waited for dozens of days, and seeing that Xiaohua was a bit anxious, Princess Xia said in a low voice, Let's stop here for now, Xiaohua, go to Xiao country to take a look, and don't let any accidents happen. There's no need. Just as Xiaohua was about to reply, his brows relaxed, and he said with a smile, the Lightning Immortal is already here. Sure enough, not long after, the Lightning Immortal's figure appeared in midair. What was special was that when the Lightning Immortal just appeared, he actually involuntarily glanced behind him, as if he was afraid of being discovered. Fellow Taoist. Xiaohua asked curiously, is someone chasing you? Damn it, no one is chasing me. The Lightning Immortal muttered, isn't it that Qing Qing? She keeps an eye on I every day, as if I will run away. Today, I finally managed to get her to go, and only then did I manage to escape. It can't be. Xiaohua said in surprise, Qing Qing's strength is only around the 6th grade of essence energy, right? Isn't it easy for you to avoid her? That. The Lightning Immortal was embarrassed to speak again. Princess Xia curled her lips and said, you don't have to worry. She definitely won't follow you, and she definitely won't ask you about the Kunlun mirror in the future. She knows that you want to return the Kunlun mirror, so she took the initiative to avoid you. That's not true. The Lightning Immortal argued forcefully, the main thing is that it is too troublesome to collect the citizens of Shao Empire, which is why it took so much time. Kiki. Xiaohua did not say any more. He took over the Kunlun mirror and said with a smile, fellow Taoist, did you collect all the citizens of Shao Empire? About 80%. The Lightning Immortal shook his head and said, I heard from Fujiwen that the remaining 20%, no matter how you persuade them, they are not willing to enter the Kunlun Immortal realm. I will be in charge of collecting them. As for the rest, you should ask Fujiwen. All right. Xiaohua kept the Kunlun mirror and said, fellow Taoist, when you return, tell Fujiwen that this is I's order. Tell him to prepare to reel in the net, and wait for I's order to come, and let him catch them all in one fell swoop. No problem. After hearing Xiaohua's words, the Lightning Immortal urged, fellow Taoist, if there is nothing else, I will take my leave first. Hee. Seeing the Lightning Immortal acting like a thief, how is this the bearing of a Taoism's Mahayana? Xiaohua helplessly laughed a few times and said, there is nothing else, you should quickly return. Farewell. The Lightning Immortal raised his hand to bid farewell and hurriedly left. Princess Xia at the side was also shocked. She also looked at Xiaohua in disbelief and asked curiously, Darling Xiao, this Lightning Immortal. Is he? Hee, I'm afraid so. Xiaohua said with a smile, however, this is his matter. You and I should just watch from the sidelines. We can only leave it to fate. Princess Xia knew that she could no longer stop Princess Qingqing. She was extremely disgusted, but also happy. The feeling was so complicated that even she herself could not explain it clearly. After taking the Kunlun mirror, Xiaohua kept the Pegasus flying chariot. He held Princess Xia's hand and rushed towards the East Sea with lightning escape. Within the East Sea Dragon Palace, whether it was the dragon race or the oceanic race, they all moved their bodies and quickly traversed through the serene blue crystal-like seawater. Some even impatiently teleported, looking busy and nervous. However, at the core of the Dragon Palace, inside the main hall that flickered with treasure light, it was quiet again. There were more than 100 dragon generals wearing dragon armor and holding dragon weapons. They surrounded the main hall so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Waves of chaotic water rippled from all directions, but they were immediately annihilated by the dragon generals with a wave of their hands. Not to mention that the noise could not reach the main hall at all. Boom! A loud rumble sounded from several hundred zhang away from the main hall. The nearby dragon generals were all startled. They involuntarily raised the dragon weapons in their hands, wanting to surround the main hall. However, when they saw a huge water halo appear amidst the rumble, and then a tricolored halo spread out one after another. A dragon general wearing dragon armor hurriedly flew out from the halo. The dragon generals had a look of realization on their faces. Most of them flew back, leaving only one dragon general at the front to block him. Reporting to the great general. The dragon general flew out of the halo and hurriedly shook his dragon head. In his dragon claws was a dragon shell. He reported, "There is a message from the West Sea Dragon Palace." As he spoke, the dragon general handed the dragon shell over. The great general took the dragon shell and nodded without looking at it. He said, "Thank you for your hard work." "Thank you for your hard work, great general," the dragon general said politely. He turned around and flew back into the halo. His dragon body faded for a moment. The great general turned around and was about to fly back to the main hall. A dragon general beside him smiled bitterly and said, "Great general, why is it the West Sea again? How can it not be the West Sea?" The great general replied helplessly, "The West Sea today is no longer the West Sea of the past." After saying that, the great general did not dare to delay. He urged his dragon body to enter the main hall. However, at this moment, boom! There was another sound of water. Not far from the halo that just appeared, another tricolored halo appeared. The palace guard grand general stopped, but his dragon body didn't move. The dragon general who just spoke swayed his dragon body and blocked the light ring. Another dragon general hurriedly flew out from the light ring. As soon as he saw this dragon general, he looked up at the palace guard grand general and shouted, "Palace guard grand general, urgent report from the West Sea. Bring it over." The great general was too lazy to move. After he gave the order, the dragon general waved his dragon claw, and the long bay in his hand flew into the great general's dragon claw at lightning speed. Then, the dragon general hurriedly returned. Damn the fortune gate. The great general looked at the two dragon shells in the dragon claws and cursed under his breath. Just as he was about to enter the main hall. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it, tip it, and thank you for all your support. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.